He does not set out a credible justification for his extension as demanded in the EU statement of the 12th of March. He merely calls for, and I quote, a different approach. Yet this different approach is based on a fiction that he can deliver his deal whilst also securing participation in EU trade policy, full participation in EU security, have his own position on state aid, all things the EU have ruled out as non-negotiable. He talks about the Prime Minister's red lines, but what are his red lines when he puts forward ideas that are completely unrealistic? Indeed, his commitment to the second referendum is so strong that in his statement on Tuesday he failed to mention it even once. This is just 15 days. Of course I give way. 15 days. Perhaps he can explain why the leader of the opposition failed to mention a second referendum. I'm sure it's a question those who defected from his party would like an answer on.
Well, I'm very grateful to the Secretary of State for giving way, but can I gently point out that whatever problems he may have with Labour's propositions for Brexit, it doesn't leave have the advantage of not having crashed to such a big defeat as the government's own proposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we thought he himself actually used to support a second referendum, but he failed to even mention it in his intervention. But the point is, the leader of the opposition called this week for cross-party consensus. This is from someone who refused even to meet with the Prime Minister, who actually met her once after weeks of delay and has blocked his front bench from engaging with the government. When he talks of cross-party consensus, perhaps what he really means is actually having meetings with a member for West Bromwich East. There is no limit to the inconsistencies of his approach. He talks, Mr. Speaker, of listening to this House. And yet when this House spoke on his amendment on the 27th of February, defeating it by 323 votes to 240, he failed to listen to that judgment. So today, Mr. Speaker, he presents an amendment that fails the test set out by the European Commission on Tuesday.
This guy is such a cretin. I tell you, this Barclay bloke. I'm sorry, I've just got no time for this. These just lies, duplicity.
I'll give away one.
They are trying to railroad us into a no-end, a never-ending EU fascist nightmare.
You to be sitting there giving pop.
Anyway,
at the last moment.
2 minutes, 3 minutes, people.
Well, then he may have a word with the leader of the opposition.
Do us a favour and share the show. God bless you.
Proposals that have not already been ruled out by the European Union and failed to address the statement issued just 2 days ago. Let me turn, in the limited time left, Mr. Speaker, to Amendment I. And the member for Leeds Central raised a specific point in his remarks when he said that we needed to vote for that amendment because the House would not have a vote on another amendable motion until after the 29th of March. We will make our statement under Section 13.4 tomorrow, setting out how the government proposes to proceed in relation to negotiations, and so there will
just
be
give it all away.
Give it away. No later
give
than
them some
Monday,
more.
the
Go on, give them another few
March.
tens of billions. Why not?
Amendment I, Mr. Speaker, from the...
Give them more money. Amendment A, B, C, D and E. Give them more.
Raised an issue which I think, Mr. Speaker, you have already addressed in your response to the member for Wallasey. So I won't dwell on that other than to suggest that it is an issue for the Chair and it will be shaped by the motion that is brought forward by the government.
Hi,
in
Olly.
respect of amendment
Just got the
H
comedy
put
going
forward
on
by
in the
the member
background.
for Totnes,
Couple of minutes,
it is clear government policy to resist a second referendum, and that policy has not changed. Mr. Speaker, I have 2 minutes left, and I'm giving away a couple of times.
Only because you're
Mr.
pacing
Speaker,
it.
It was Tony Blair who said that the way to stop Brexit
no.
was first
Tony
to vote
Blair
against the Prime Minister's deal, then to vote against no deal, and then to seek a long extension. It is votes on Tuesday, Wednesday and tonight. This is the precise script followed by the leader of the opposition. Perhaps he should share with us whether it was Tony, Peter or Alistair that wrote it for him. How proud those envoys of the elite must be with his late conversion to the cause. His approach has become more Davos than Don Valley. Some members
He
of
needs
this
a
House will
conversion to The
remember
Hague.
the painting from Banksy that went through the shredder. Indeed, the member for Ribble Valley had it on his Christmas card. The reality in his approach this week, Mr. Speaker, is he is shredding the votes of 17.4 million people in this country, with his turning his back on the referendum.
So are you.
Going
You
back
all
on
are.
his word from his own manifesto, failing to listen even to his own front bench. The member for Ashton-under-Lyne was saying just last night, I think that it would be disastrous for us to, as members of Parliament, go back to the people, the very issue that others in his party are campaigning for. Mr. Speaker, this is a time for responsibility, yet we have a motion from the Leader of the Opposition that ducks the choice, ducks the time, ducks the clarity, ducks national responsibility. It is time for this House to act in the national interest. It is time to put forward...
It is time. It is time for the national interest, is it not? I wish he meant it. Hey folks. Good afternoon, good people. Welcome to the Daily Brexit. Holding democracy to account, fighting for self-determination, and failing miserably. And now, what do they call this show? Usurping Democracy Live. Yeah, right. Snazzy title. Double bill today. Oh, look at this. Hold on a sec. Here he goes. Okay, that's enough of the intro. Right. So this is live in the Commons. They've just broken for the division. Yeah, 2 shows today, folks. So good evening. Thanks for tuning in. Good afternoon. 2 shows with Robin Horsley popped back in off the back of last night because, well, Robin, I mean, it was like unfinished business, wasn't it? And we seem to have a double bill in terms of treachery going on, it seems to me. I don't know. Where do we stand at the moment? What are they about to vote for, please, sir? Oh, hold on. I saw your audio. Let me sort out your audio.
The sequence will
be go on.
That all the amendments will be voted on first, and then the amendments that go through, that are approved, are then added to the motion, and therefore then the motion is voted on last, if that makes sense.
Okay, so what's the motion that's going through?
So this first motion that they're just going out to vote in the lobbies now, and that is to request an extension to Article 50 and to hold a second referendum. So we can
big one.
Expect this one to be defeated. Yeah.
So hold on a sec. The second referendum question is part of the motion.
That's my understanding, unless I've got that. I've got that wrong.
Unless,
I'm just to be perfectly frank, I'm catching up very late in the day. So
I don't blame you. I think everybody is. It's all so confusing. I wonder if that might be an amendment on top of the motion. But either way, that's essentially what they're gearing for today, isn't it? To extend Article 50 and to give the opportunity for a second referendum, a second chance at democracy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And as of yesterday, can you just summarise for us, please, what basically happened yesterday? Because I think we're largely a bit confused there. Yeah, but they what did happen?
Okay. So it was the most ridiculous and bizarre day. Really, we had first of all we had the debate all afternoon. And I'm just looking for my little summary here, which will help actually.
That's fine.
Sort of explain the sequence.
Berko isn't announcing the result yet, folks. They're not going to result. They're literally just going through having a vote now. He's just calling out the people to count them or whatever. Go on, Robin, please.
So the government put forward its motion yesterday, which was to prevent no deal from occurring on the 29th of March. But as was explained in the chamber, that was really not what it was about. It was, you can't vote for no deal. You can only vote to express a desire for no deal.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, it's a matter of law that we leave on March the 29th currently. So there would have to be counteractive law passed by the Parliament in order to reverse that situation. So now that could be a simple piece of law, could be what they call a statutory instrument, which could pass very quickly in a matter of days through both houses and receive and become law. But the bizarre thing really was last night that there was an amendment put forward by Caroline Spelman and Jack Dromey. So Spelman on the Conservative side, Jack Dromey on the Labour side. And that the amendment they put forward was to exclude the possibility of no deal under any circumstances. Now that, for some reason, sent the government into panic. And the government then whipped Conservative members of Parliament to vote against their own motion. Bizarre. At which point, 4 ministers decided that they were not going to do that. So they were allowed to abstain. And lo and behold, the government lost by 4 votes. So those four votes were absolutely critical.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Cheers, Amber Rudd. Cheers, Amber Rudd. Bilderberger. Supreme. Love you, darling. Thanks. And by the way, I don't know if your brother's a crook or what have you. I don't know exactly how crooked you are and your family entirely, but you are certainly doing your damnedest to steal democracy. Thanks a lot. But she hasn't been sacked, has she? I personally think that she is basically Mini May, that May is saying to her, please, please, please. It has her complete blessing, it seems to me, does Amber Rudd from the Prime Minister.
We don't know. That's the problem we keep going back to. We don't really know what the full intention of the Prime Minister is.
Fair play. Yeah, fair play. Nonetheless, she hasn't been sacked, has she, for essentially throwing Brexit into the fire yesterday?
No, that's right. I mean,
she hasn't thrown it into the fire.
It didn't throw it into the fire. It didn't throw it into the fire. That's the reality. It's because this motion, these votes are not binding at all on the government. I think what they illustrated yesterday was the control that a government has over its members of Parliament, in that you have all of the Conservative members of Parliament all lined up to vote for the government's motion, and then the implication of the amendment means that the whips, in a matter of, not very long, in a very short period of time, have to whip everybody in the opposite direction. Now, these are members of Parliament who've been spent all day giving great principled speeches or putting themselves in front of cameras describing how principled they are, and that's why they're going to vote the way they're going to vote tonight. And actually then, of course, the whips get them to vote in the opposite direction, and off they all troop through the lobbies like a bunch of sheep. So, if you're looking for integrity and honesty and everything from members of Parliament, forget it. You're looking in the wrong place. You won't find it in Westminster.
Okay, just run through a few news stories going on today, and to flesh out a little bit more on where we are now with a few things. This is old Trump asking, who's Theresa May?
What advice did you give the British Prime Minister that she didn't take?
Well, I just told her what I would do and how I would do it.
What advice did you give Theresa May that she didn't take?
Yeah, I know who exactly. Anyway, right, okay. So yeah, the headlines today. It's a total no. Way's final warning to the Tory rebels. You see, actually, the papers, that isn't true, is it? It's, as you say, Robin, that is not correct to say it's a total no.
No, that's right. No, not at all. No, I mean, this is not the case at all. And it was very bizarre last night. The mainstream media, I was watching ITV, I think, last night, 10 o'clock news, and they were showing scenes of Remain supporters outside Parliament jubilantly cheering, and hang on, nothing happened. Really nothing happened. It was great kind of drama.
Yeah.
But in reality, it doesn't change anything. The law is we leave on the 29th of March, and unless an alternative law can be passed, that is the way it will stay. What's going to happen now is that the government will bring forward the withdrawal agreement a third time early next week, because there is a European summit on, I think, the Wednesday, the 21st. Is that? Is that a Wednesday or is that a Thursday? It's a Thursday, so
Right.
I think it's 20th and 21st actually. So presumably the next vote will be Monday, Tuesday. I'm not quite sure when. Probably Tuesday, and that will then result in well, we don't know what it will result in, but it will either result in the withdrawal agreement going through, and I think the rumours at the moment are that the DUP are prepared to vote with the government on that, that they're prepared to do a deal to put the withdrawal agreement through. So then it really depends on what the ERG, the European Research Group, decide they're going to do. Are they going to break from the DUP and go their own way? I mean, they don't. The ERG are a group, but they don't vote en masse, as we saw in the vote this week on the withdrawal agreement on Tuesday. Some of the ERG members decided to vote with the government. I mean, they got an absolutely caned for doing so. I mean, if you go and look at those MPs who broke away from the group and decided to vote for the withdrawal agreement, go and have a look at their social media sites. They've been absolutely hammered by their constituents, who are furious with them.
Yeah. It does look as though this is the only way we can retrieve our democracy in this country now, is by waiting for the next general election and then seeing sufficient numbers of these anti-representatives kicked out, hopefully deselected in the first place, so that people have a choice of people that might actually represent them in their constituencies. But it seems to me that it's only that then we can start working towards Brexit. We actually have been in a situation for the last 2.5 years plus, where it's impossible to get off the starting out of the starting gate with this lot holding you back. It's like having massive chains around your ankles.
Yeah, I don't think we've got a choice now. I think we just have to leave on March the 29th without a deal, because there is no sensible deal in the offing.
You really think they're going to allow it, Robin?
There is no deal. I'm sorry?
You really think they're going to allow that? It seems to me the tone of them, and as you said, the media, which is being so disingenuous about the reality of events, doesn't talk about anything remotely inconvenient, of course, either. They are playing it in such a way that they seem to have queued up the country that there is going to be no Brexit on the 29th. I think I'm seeing democracy being stolen here, but you're telling me you disagree with that.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying I disagree with it. I think there is an attempt to persuade people that it's all sort of, it's all gone past. It's all water under the bridge now, and we are where we are, and MPs have voted, and we've got to move on. And I think that is a sort of an attempt to sort of persuade people of a completely false reality. The fact is that they've got to come up with another deal that would be voted through Parliament, and then pass the legislation as well before we leave on March the 29th. So there are ways in which it can be blocked. I mean, there are various parliamentary procedures that can slow things down or block things. Don't ask me to tell you exactly what they are, because I've been in sort of discussion with people over the last couple of days about this, and I frankly haven't got my head completely around that. And
I'm not surprised. It is all pretty.
But I mean, I'm fairly well assured, and I think it's right that there are ways that this can be delayed if a deal gets voted through. But I think next week, if the Labour Party suddenly switch sides and say that they're going to vote for the withdrawal agreement, then all is lost, right? But if they don't, then we're in a situation where we're depending really on some or all, but certainly, literally, realistically, some will hopefully vote against the withdrawal agreement, and there'll be enough of those to kill it dead for a third time.
Yeah.
And then we've just got to try and block anything else until the 29th of March. But I think of all the potential perils ahead of us, just sort of stepping out of this from any kind of partisan point of view, of all the potential perils ahead of us, the least perilous now is to leave on the 29th of March without a deal. If we don't leave on March 29th, I mean, there will be. I think there will be something approaching civil war as an outcome. I mean, can I pursue this for a minute, Ollie?
Please do. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think through the sequence of events, March the 29th, there is a huge march into the centre of London, organised by Leave Means Leave. I think if we're not leaving, then hundreds of thousands of people, quite literally, will probably descend on London. The place will be brought to a grinding halt. I think if violence erupts, the next stage, violence might erupt around the country, and then you've got to bring in the army. But the army are not going to. I mean, I was down in Aldershot a couple of weekends ago for a friend's, for very close friend's daughter's, married and has had a baby with a guy in one of the regiments that are based down in Aldershot at the moment. They have been out in Syria. They just came back. And I was talking to all the guys there, so not the officers, but the men in the regiment. And these guys are not wearing EU badges. They fight for Queen and country. They're socially, when they go home, they're amongst Leave supporters. Their families voted Leave. Their communities voted Leave.
Robin,
the places.
Bear with me one sec. I think
let's get a result.
Okay, we're going to get a result here. We'll come back to this because, pretty key.
Order!
The ayes to the right, 85, and the noes to the left, 334.
Robin, what does that mean? That's great news. That one, no, I'm taking it.
334. So the noes have it. The noes have it. Unlock.
I get confused. Which is the A and which is the nay? But that one was the vote to extend Article 50, was it? No, because that would have got way more support, surely.
To move formally her amendment to Amendment I. Move formally, thank you. The question is that the amendment to Amendment I be made. As many as are that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. No. Division, clear the lobby.
Well, that
I'm
sounds
utterly confused about this now. I'm going to just have to look this up. Keep talking, Ollie, while I look it up.
That's all right. Okay, good on you, mate. Thank you. I appreciate that. Right, okay, I'm just going to go through a few other bits and bobs that have been going on. And we saw old Trump there. He has been talking about this. He, according to Westminster, says the second referendum is unfair. May did not listen on the negotiations. That vote, by the way, I'm pretty sure it's good news all in all, but we'll come on to it and find out exactly what that was. US President Donald Trump has intervened in the Brexit debate for the second time today, because of course he was in the UK trying to talk some sense into that dunce in number 10, wasn't he? And she didn't listen then, just before Chequers. With Reuters reporting that Trump has made a number of points, including hitting out against a second referendum as unfair, and expressing his surprise at how badly the UK-EU negotiations have gone. And again, this won't be reported on the BBC, will it? But thank you, Mr. President. God bless you. I wish we had leadership like yours in our country, quite frankly, at least in terms of Brexit. Remainer Speaker Bercow blocks vote on stopping second Brexit referendum. So this is one of these votes tonight, and I don't think it was the one that we just heard, though, because I suspect a lot more people would support. Oh, hold on a sec, it could have been, actually. Oh, blimey. Robin,
no,
I don't...
So Ollie, I can clarify this now,
Please, thank you.
No, was right what I originally thought, which was the vote that we've just had is the one that was put forward by by Sarah Wollaston.
Yeah.
Sarah Wollaston is one of the ex-Conservatives that are part
Tigger.
of the independent group, the TIG.
Yes.
And it was the amendment was to have another referendum and to extend Article 50 in order to be able
Robin,
to do that.
one sec.
Aye be made. As many as other been say aye.
Okay, all right. Sorry, carry on,
It's
Robin.
all right.
Sorry.
Formality thing, yeah. So what they're doing now, the Ben Amendment. Shall I carry on?
Yes, please do. Okay, so
okay.
let's just clarify again that last vote, which went heavily against the vote. What was that?
Just now, so that was to have another referendum. So.
And so that's been absolutely crushed. There's no way that Parliament wants another referendum as of today.
Absolutely crushed. Absolutely.
It only got 84 votes out of 650 odd. 650 precisely, in fact.
85, but yeah.
85. Well, that's good news, no? That is the best news of the week so far. Not that was difficult.
It is, yes. I mean, it was, Sarah Wollaston bringing that forward, who's probably one of the most universally disliked politicians, not just in the country but in Parliament now, beaten only to that prize by the Beast of Broxtowe, Anna Soubry.
Yeah. God bless her.
Puts forward that motion, which that if there was any chance of it getting through beforehand, I mean, it was not going to get through with her putting it forward. So that's nice. Happy with that.
Yeah. No, completely. Okay, right. So that's that one. What are they voting on now then?
Right. So the next amendment is called Amendment I, and this is what's known as the Ben Amendment.
Right.
As
Hillary
Ben. But actually, it's a cross-party group of backbenchers.
Right.
That if it's passed, it would allow the Commons to debate the next steps of Brexit on Wednesday next week.
Oh, it's actually a motion to give them parliamentary time to plot.
Yeah, basically, so they can supposedly find a way forward that can command majority support. So
Right.
they'd, I don't know, indicative votes, maybe that sort of thing. But really, what it's about is about MPs sort of taking control of parliamentary time and appearing, therefore, to take control of governance, really. But that's I think this will be defeated.
You think it's PR?
No, well, I mean, it wouldn't be binding, I don't think, anyway. So
No.
so there's nothing.
That's
It doesn't
right.
really mean very much.
None of these indicative votes are binding, huh? None of these votes that we've seen this week are binding.
Well, no, because motions can't overrule law.
Yeah.
So when laws are passed through parliaments and go on the statute book, receive royal assent, they can't be overruled by parliamentary motions. No.
Yes.
These
Which
are
is
just sort
why,
of indications, really.
which is
That's
why
all
the
that's
media,
really all they are.
which is why the media is way over egging the cake on the significance of yesterday, albeit significant, I think, perhaps psychologically, but they're not being balanced in their reportage. I don't think at all in the way they're covering it from what I can see. Just take a few comments. Christopher Michael Baxter says this is another amendment to have a further debate on Brexit on Wednesday, the 20th of March, and so that's what they're voting on now. Tim Johnson says Cameron on the Lisbon Treaty, also unlawful for anyone to give our sovereignty away. Nigel Eli, Trump was fantastic. He ripped the EU a new one, and just have a look at the Irish PM's face. It was a supercilious beauty. I'd like to see that. Cheers, Nigel. Tim Johnson says, Diane James MEP, listen to what she says. Wow. And she is good value, isn't she? I might just copy that and see if I can play that in a sec. Helen Lasky-Smith says, a lot of us knew that was all about A50. Cannot stand that dwarf Burko, says Kathy Farrell. And Helena Mary Reynolds says, MPs reject on the amendment. PJ Tansley, really? This is madness. If that's the case, Robin, so confusing. Are you sure? Lots of laughs. Oh, blimey. I'm not sure what you're referring to now, PJ. But good evening. Good afternoon, sir. Seldom McGarry, so then they have time to change the law. Yeah, okay, that's what they're voting on now. James Miller, I don't think there's enough in there who want an extension. So when are we going to find out about that then? I guess that's how many amendments along is that? Or
that's the one after this. But so what they're voting on at the moment is an amendment to an amendment. So they're invited. This is something to do with the timing, the parliamentary time. I'm not sure exactly what they want to change though.
Right.
So what they're calling the Powell Amendment to the Ben Amendment, and then that will. So they'll get the results on that, and then they'll vote on the amendment. So this is quite a bit of time we've got. We're going to be sitting on our hands waiting for them to decide this, and then I think this is probably going to be defeated. The Labour Party will vote for it, but I think the DUP and all the Conservatives will vote against, so it'll be down to the majority of the government, really, that will defeat this one, I think.
Oh, look at that. Wow. I've just seen something that I can do with Skype. I don't know that this is going to work. They've got a new function on Skype called merge an incoming call with my existing call, which means that I might have the kind of functionality with Skype that we had when I started Daily Brexit, not for long, as you might remember, and we've had to use Discord ever since. Hello, good afternoon. Who's calling, please?
Hello, it's William Prentice.
Bill, good afternoon. How are you, sir? What would you like to say?
All right, mate. I've got to be quick, but do you remember the conversation I had the other day with you that government
William, hold on. Before you go on, before you go on, you may not realise this, but I'm actually streaming a show at the moment. I don't know if you called me or you're calling into the show.
Calling into the show.
Okay, that's fine. In that case, I just didn't want you to say something like, I don't know, give out, I don't know, whatever. But yes, please, William, what did you want to say? Go on.
I said on your show last week that government will delay and delay and delay for 2 years because there's no such thing as a second referendum. That being the case, they're going to delay Brexit for 2 years so they can get a second referendum. I said that they would do that.
Leigh Hollands in the comments says the plan is to still get May's withdrawal agreement through. This is why Burko didn't bring the ERG amendment to rule out the second referendum. Robin, what would you say to those two theories?
God, I'm so sorry. I missed that.
That's all right.
There is no second referendum. There isn't one.
You can hear each other, yeah? You two?
We can.
Good.
Yep.
Perfect. Excellent. Wow. My word, Skype has sorted out this new feature. This is really cool. I'm quite excited about that. Okay. No, what William is saying is that the plan is to get a second referendum. Is that an extension for 2 years so that they can then get a second referendum? Correct me if I'm wrong, William. Leigh Hollands is saying the plan is still to get May's withdrawal agreement through. His comments just skipped off my screen, but basically that's his theory. Now, I don't know. What do you say to those two theories, Robin? It seems to me that her withdrawal agreement has been a kind of like a smokescreen. That I mean, how could they honestly ever expect anybody to swallow that codswallop? But on the other hand, I kind of would tend to agree with William there, who's saying they extend the thing until enough time has gone under the bridge. Enough people have basically been knocked across the head with this so much that they're just fed up and they just say, get it over with. And it goes through with basically whatever they want, which would probably be, I'm estimating, a second referendum with votes for 16, 17-year-olds.
Yeah.
Robin, what do you say to that, to those theories?
Well, there are a whole range of different theories. Certainly, I think the point that's made that the withdrawal agreement has always rather looked as if it was something that was designed to have minimal support. To they really had to come up with a formula for something that would be unacceptable to Leavers and unacceptable to Remainers as well. That's what the withdrawal agreement is. So it's basically Remain but without any votes. It's not good for anybody. Nobody really likes it. So you have to look at it and go, okay, well, was that deliberate?
William?
Of course it was deliberate.
William?
Yes, it is deliberate.
William?
Plus, a motion is not an act of Parliament.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we've just been discussing that, William, actually, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'll stick by my original decision that it's government's intention to delay for 2 years so they can table second referendum in the hope that they get the vote that they want. But in my estimation, the majority will be bigger than the 17.4 million this far.
Well, okay. So on the first point, I think, that's certainly a theory that's. The thing is, when you say they, there is no they. There are slightly different shades of opinion from lots of different people in government.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So it's difficult to sort of break it, but certainly that is one of the things that is being talked about, and the reason for that, I think, is the logic behind it is that if you've got 5 years on from a referendum, you then sort of start to get to a stage where you say, well, enough's changed in 5 years, isn't it right that we go and ask the people again? The problem I have with that is the active campaigning that's going on, and that's been going on for so long. There's been so much money being spent to try and persuade us that the whole thing's a terrible idea, that we're on another 2 years on from that. The whole sort of media space is being horribly distorted, as Olly knows and has talked about quite a bit, I think, on your show, Olly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
is their behaviour?
Go on.
Is the behaviour then treasonous?
Well, I think
by not going to the will of the people.
Yeah, no, I think it is really. I think that's really what it comes down to. If we don't leave on March the 29th, then yes. That's why I would. I'm hesitating to say that at the moment because we haven't actually got to that point. But if on the March the 29th we do not leave, then yes, I think it would be treason against the people. I think we're the
sovereign.
Exactly. This is something that people argue about. They say, "Oh no, Parliament's sovereign." No, look, sovereignty means ultimate authority. We are the ultimate authority because we elect the parliamentarian.
Here we go.
That's right.
We got another.
Yeah, very true.
Right, we got votes coming in. Incoming.
Ayes 311.
All right. Okay, go.
Hold on, William.
314.
Right,
hold on. 311, 314. 311 ayes to the three. Hold on. Here we go.
The ayes to the right 311. The noes to the left 314. So the noes have it. The noes have it. Unlock. Order.
Right. Okay. Very tight there, Robin. Any idea what that was?
Yeah. So that was the Powell Amendment to the Benn Amendment. So there was an amendment to an amendment, which was to extend Article 50 to 30th of June to find a way forward for with majority support. So it was not only saying that they want to have some parliamentary time on the 20th of March, but they also want to have they wanted to push back Article 50 to the end of June. That was what that was all about, and that was defeated, so it's irrelevant now. We can forget that now. So we're back to the subject of the amendment. They're just going out to now vote on the amendment without the amendment to it because it didn't pass. So we're back to the Benn Amendment, which is whether or not to control parliamentary time next Wednesday, which is the 20th, to try and find a way forward with majority support.
So let me get this right. The motion that was just voted down.
No, there was no motion voted down.
Sorry,
There was
the amendment that was just
voted
voted down was to extend Article 50 till the end of June, and that is what has been defeated.
No, hang on. That was an amendment to an amendment. So you have the motion, and then you have amendments to a motion, and then in this instance, an amendment to an amendment. So it was effectively adding on to the amendment this stipulation that we should extend Article 50 till the end of June. Does that make sense?
Yes. Which motion was it referring to?
Well, the motion, the overall motion, is the one to do with the three-part motion. Should we just do you want to go back to that, and I will, because we haven't actually covered that yet, what actually the whole motion means tonight.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
We've got a bit of that now.
I'll tell you, I don't know about you lot, but I am so bloody confused. I am so confused here with all of this. And I just wonder if that's part of the procedure. Just try and wind the whole country down and, you're not bright enough to understand this. We just want our sovereignty, don't we? We just want self-determination. And guess what? It's not all about money either. It's not all about money. It's about freedom. I'm sorry. Okay, Robin, I get upset. But it's as basic as that for me. I don't like complicated.
You just take your tablets, all right?
And have a light. Take tablets.
And you'll be all right.
Go on, thank you.
Now, yes, but I agree with you entirely. Yes, it is confusing. It is quite deliberately confusing in some ways. You may remember that little clip. It might be worth showing that little clip that I put together yesterday, because that will have had a limited audience on YouTube.
Yes.
That shows sort of consternation that Anna Soubry felt when she realised only at the very last minute what the motion was actually about yesterday. But before we go backwards, let's go forward, shall we? So let me just read you the wording for the motion. It's in three parts. The first notes the resolutions of the House on the 12th and 13th of March. So that was the votes on Tuesday night and last night. Mm-hmm. And accordingly agrees the government will seek to agree with the European Union an extension of the period specified in Article 50. So the whole overall thing tonight is about extending Article 50.
Yeah.
Number two, the government agrees that the motion would be that agrees that if the House had passed a resolution approving the negotiated withdrawal agreement and the framework for the future relationship, then the government will seek to agree with the European Union a one-off extension of the period specified in Article 50 for a period ending on the 30th of June 2019 for the purpose of passing necessary EU exit legislation. So just to summarise, what that means is if the withdrawal agreement is put to Parliament again and it is passed, then they will go to the EU and they will seek a extension until the 30th of June in order to get the required legislation through Parliament to enable that to occur. Yeah. Okay. Number three, the final part of the motion notes that if the House has not passed a resolution approving the withdrawal agreement and the framework, then it is highly likely the European Council at its meeting the following day, on the 21st, would require a clear purpose for any extension, not least to determine its length, and any extension beyond the 30th of June 2019 would require the United Kingdom to hold European parliamentary elections in May 2019.
That's right.
Right, so let's just explain that. So the third point is really just a kind of note, really, that if the withdrawal agreement doesn't pass next week, it's a kind of an implied threat, really. Then the government is saying, look, if you don't vote for the withdrawal agreement next week, then the European Council are going to want to have a clear purpose for any extension. So what are we going to do, type thing. And it could be a long extension only that they want, which means we'd have to hold European parliamentary elections. I think that's open to question. I mean, do the European Parliament, can they handle any more Nigel Farage YouTube videos?
That's right. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
That's right.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of other YouTube wannabes who would very much like to get into the European Parliament and join him and pepper our screens with with abusing people in the European Parliament.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Oh,
I mean, they're in for a tough time anyway. They're going to have problems with populist movements all the way across Europe at these next parliamentary elections. I mean, the last thing they need is our lot as well, because our lot are just vicious.
David Wolf says that was close to an extension. 311 to 314. Yeah, it was.
Well, Well, only if you think this amendment itself is going to pass. True. And the motion doesn't mean anything really anyway, so it's only kind of indicative.
It's only indicative, but nonetheless, it could be used as a tool by the establishment to convince us. Okay, Daz Battlefield. Christine Gunn Jackson. It is war. They have drawn first blood. How accurate is that, Robin, would you say, at this stage?
It's premature at this stage.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's going that way, so I entirely understand that people are expressing those sort of things now.
Yes. I think in some of our cases, we were thinking that if we were provocational early enough, that these political characters would maybe see that there were a bunch of us that were pretty feisty and would back off and start saying, you know what, we've got to uphold democracy because otherwise we're going to have problems. I don't know whether that strategy's worked. I don't know whether they've listened. I don't know if anyone really cares. I don't know if I post stuff on Facebook and people that reply to it are all artificial intelligence that's sponsored by Blackwater. I don't know what, but it does seem to me that there's a lot of very interesting psychological chicanery going on one way and another. Alex Hine says excited but feels too close to be relieved. Deb Steele, are they deliberately confusing us? Need Queenie to suspend Parliament, says Sue Dacey. I think we've discussed a little bit is it proroguing? I think I asked you to explain to me what that meant.
Yeah, proroguing, which is just suspend Parliament.
Suspend Parliament. Now she could do that, couldn't she? Another petition has been going around today, which I've been put on my timeline as well, and I hope people do sign it. It had 65,000 signatures. Wouldn't it be amazing if it had 17.4 signatures within the next couple of hours or so? But that is, surely it's not going to come to that, is it? I mean, we've always, I don't know, I don't really personally believe the Queen is apolitical because she seems to have a Privy Council all to herself. But nonetheless, it would surely be incredibly out of character. Is there a possibility she could step in, do you think?
I think in a situation of civil unrest, when it looks like the country is going to tip itself into civil war, I think she probably would, yeah. At that stage. But I mean, is the Queen political? No. But you know, is the sovereign against sovereignty? That would be my question.
I don't know if she's been speaking out for it a lot, to be honest with you, since her coronation oath. But then again, on the other hand, maybe she thought, well, it wasn't desperate measures enough at the time.
Well, no, it's a rhetorical question. You know, is the sovereign against sovereignty? How could the sovereign be against sovereignty unless they wanted to have, you know, sovereign power for themselves? The principle is very, very simple, that the sovereign has given power to Parliament and to the people, but ultimate sovereignty is held by the people. But we delegate that authority to exercise power on our behalf between parliaments, except in the case where we have a referendum, and then there is an obligation for Parliament to accept our decision. And all of this sort of technicality, this technical sort of arguing, oh, you know, it was only advisory. Well, you know, actually, I have read the Referendum Act 2015, and the word advisory does not even appear in it. It doesn't, it doesn't make the case at all that the referendum vote was advisory. You can always argue that these things are advisory because Parliament actually makes the law. Yes. Parliament has no authority to go against the vote of the people. What Parliament is attempting to do is to put something together that they say meets the requirement of the people. Well, the only real way to absolutely go with the people is not to have a deal, because we didn't agree to any deal at all, did we?
That's right. Absolutely.
By default, we should leave with nothing on the 29th and then build up from there.
Yeah. Just coming up to the announcement of this vote, can you remind us what this one's about, please, Robin?
So this is the Benn Amendment that is just about to come. The result is just about to come through on. So this is to get some parliamentary time, supposedly some parliamentary time to sort of resolve a way forward next week. So it's about Parliament trying to take control. Okay. So I think this will be defeated, but not by a huge margin.
If this is not defeated, it's not the end of the world, no?
We want this to be defeated, really.
Yeah.
We don't want the Labour Party having control over the parliamentary timetable, because that's effectively what it would mean.
Right.
Although it is a cross-party. So let's see what happens, I think.
Okay. All right, let's take a few more comments. David Wolf, I don't think bots talk about egg and chips. Lots of laughs. Sarah Boland, I really fancy egg and chips. Now it's been mentioned. Helen Lasky-Smith, Italy are watching us to see what happens. They want out. Charlotte Jameson loves a Chucky egg. And James Miller says Ollie only needs 100,000 to get through and put forward. Yeah, that's right.
Can we go back a bit? Can we go back to Helen?
Yes, please. Yes.
I think Helen makes a really interesting point there, saying Italy are watching and see what happens. It's one of the things I've been wondering about, and I wonder if anybody can put any comments in the comment stream that has any particular experience on this. But I have lots of family and friends in France, so get a sort of feeling what's going on there. And every weekend basically people would put yellow vests on and go and smash something up, quite understandably as to why they do that. But I don't get a lot of feel from the other countries. Are they watching us? Are they even getting the media? Do they actually understand what's going on in the UK? What version of the truth are they getting? Be really interesting to know.
I can give you a bit of input on that, because I live in Spain. My wife is Spanish. I live in her hometown, Valencia, and they ain't got a clue. And that's not just the Spanish, but also the expats here. They all think I'm a fruitcake, basically, all of them. They are all completely conditioned one way and another. And so far as the media is concerned, the Spanish news media makes the British news media look relatively balanced. But then what could you expect from a country that only got rid of General Franco in the lifetime of my wife, only about 40 years ago or something like that? They got rid of him. So, I guess it's not really that much of a surprise. They're pretty backward, at least here. But no, and also, if you look at it from the shoe on the other foot, Robin, how much coverage are we getting about the gilets jaunes, the yellow vests in France, in the UK? Relative to the anguish in France, I would say hardly any. Certainly not for the first 8-9 weeks of what was going on there.
No, absolutely. It is shocking. It is terrible the way in which this is unfolding in terms of the media coverage, and the difference between what we see on social media, which is kind of suppressed, versus what we see on mainstream media, stuff that should be making it onto mainstream media, because these are big stories, really. What's going on in Paris every weekend are just not making it to mainstream media at all. The news management is shocking. It is exactly like, I've said this before to you, Ollie, it's exactly like the books I've read about the 1930s Germany and what happened then. It looks like the result is about to come back, I think.
Yeah, that's right. They're about to pipe up again.
Couple of minutes away. But yeah, I've read about this a lot, and it is awful what we're seeing. Part of the weakness of the whole European thing, from the point of view of us as the people, is the language and media barrier. At the end of the day, if you want to, if there was to be a European demos, demos is the people from the word democracy.
Right. Yeah.
Kratos is the power, so democracy means people power. Effectively, demos, kratos, is where the word democracy is derived from. if you want to have a European demos, a European people, then those people need to share media, and really they can only share media if they share language, because there is so much difference. I mean, I speak very, very bad French, and therefore I could say something or understand something in French, and I have a complete misapprehension if I'm reading something in French, or somebody French is saying something to me, just because I misunderstand quite small nuances, but they therefore have a completely different bearing on what that person's trying to say to me. So this is the real difficulty we've got, is trying to have a European political structure that has really any political control over us. It can't be democratic. This is a fundamental problem. It's not about whether or not you like people from Eastern Europe or not. I mean, we all the idea that this is based around some prejudice, it just has basic practical problems for us, and we're seeing this in the reporting at the moment.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm probably ranting on a bit too much.
No, not at all. No, I completely agree with you. But I personally think the journalism is far, far more concerning than the politics, because if you don't have journalists holding politicians to account, then you've really, really got a problem. People sometimes say to me, Ollie, why don't you go into politics? I'm not interested in politics. I'm interested in journalism, because journalism is more important than politics, frankly, because if you ain't got journalists, then the politician will get away with whatever they want. But the fact is that they might as well not be journalists, and they are not journalists that work for the mainstream media by and large. They're just a bunch of jobsworths who are just more interested in their jobs than they are in their country. And until it gets my goat. But I
see that.
Oh, it's frustrating. Go on, Rob.
I see that Seldon McGarry has just said in the comments, Esperanto, and yeah, absolutely. That's Esperanto was this much lauded European language, wasn't it? That we were all going to learn Esperanto. That was in the 70s. In fact, my earliest political memory is people talking about Esperanto on the radio and thinking, what on earth is all that about? That was the idea, and I think that came about in the 70s because there were some people who foresaw it. I mean, most people voted in the 1970s and to join the EEC because they were told it was all about trade, and if we have a bigger market for our goods, we'll be more prosperous. Well, only if there aren't competitive suppliers in that market that can outdo us, so it doesn't necessarily work, does it? But when there are some people who sort of foresaw that this really did mean that we would become one European people. Well, that was the intention. They could foresee that intention, and they realised, if we didn't share language, didn't share media, it would, democracy couldn't function. I think we're just about to get a result. We're getting a result.
This is parliamentary time next week, for the Labour.
No, it was defeated. That was narrow. See, 2 votes.
To the right, 312. The noes to the left, 314.
Whoa, hold on a sec. Okay, sorry, Robin. I thought that. Okay, what was that one then? 312, 314.
Yeah, so that was a better amendment. That was about the parliamentary time thing.
Right.
I think you're right. You must be on a slight delay in Spain because I got that result a few seconds before you did.
Did you? Oh, blimey. Okay, I'm going to refresh this page. I'll refresh this page. But this is the next one.
In the name of the Leader of the Opposition, the Right Honourable Gentleman to move the amendment formally.
I so move, Mr. Speaker.
The question is an amendment E.
Makes me want to move.
As many as have that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. No. Division. Clear the lobby.
He doesn't trust their shouting at all, does he? Right. Okay. Let me just refresh that page, and hopefully I can. I don't know. Maybe it did. I've been watching it for a couple of hours. You do get a bit of a lag after a while.
Sure. Yeah.
See, now it may not come back. Go on, Robin, please.
So they're very, very, very close, because effectively that was the Conservatives against Labour. Well, against Labour and all the rest, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So this shows the fragility of the government, really, that they can only win by 2 votes, and that's how close things are. That's how fragile our government is at the moment.
That is incredible, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
2 vote difference on, as you said earlier, why would you give the opposition any time to say anything? The government will be taking up as much as possible. But the fact is that they've clearly lost. Presumably Ulster Unionists in there. They must have done. Or backbenchers, their own backbenchers. Well, they've lost a few Tiggers, haven't they, as well, I suppose, which makes a difference. But yeah, it is incredibly...
Yeah, that's right.
How would you compare this 312, 314, 311, 314? How would you compare these kind of scenes that are playing out in Westminster now with those under the Major government when he was getting Maastricht through?
Well, for me, it's a hazy memory of my early 20s. Really, was Maastricht.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
But yeah, I mean, it's very similar. You have a tiny majority, a government with a tiny majority, and we're even worse because we only have a majority with the DUP. So there is no Conservative majority. So we're beholden to the DUP, and it is creating this kind of problem. But at the end of the day, this is all. We've got to remember, this is all quite a big distraction from the reality. The reality is, laws got to change. These are just motions. A lot of drama.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So Gary says, he said you're absolutely right. Someone says that's why they got rid of Maggie. Exactly right. That was a coup that occurred as a result of that.
You would agree with that. You would agree with that. That Heseltine and all the rest of them, that they were basically Euro loves who conspired to get rid of Thatcher because she didn't want to take Britain into Maastricht.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. Yeah.
And so they replaced it with a puppet called John Major.
Yep. That's really the way it all occurred. And then, and I think that was the point really at which, that was the kind of crunch point. That was where people really kind of realised what was going wrong. I mean, this goes back to, I've done quite a lot of work with the Bruges Group over the last few months, which I've just stopped working with them for now because that whole series of events that we were doing leading up to, this kind of crunch point we're hitting at the end of March is now finished. I'm not sure what their plans are for the events over the next few months, but the Bruges Group came about because of that. So Margaret Thatcher went and gave her Bruges speech in 1989 and explained to the Europeans what her European dream was, which was a group of European nations who would work together in common interests, who would work together, would trade together, would champion free trade. And if you go on YouTube and look for the Bruges speech, and some of those, I mean, there are different angles it was filmed from, but you'll see the stony faces of some of the representatives there from the European countries, and it just kind of marked out the difference, really, that our view as a nation has always really been around having independent nation states that work together very, very closely and do compromise to a certain extent in terms of their lawmaking, but ultimately still have sovereignty to the extent that they can veto those things. And we've had a slow erosion of that, and a sort of distortion of the facts. I mean, there are still people there are probably millions of people who voted Remain who think that there is some wild conspiracy theory going on, that the European Union don't want to become a single nation. They don't want to become a single European nation or empire. No, they want to just have cooperation between sovereign states, don't they? Because what's sovereignty mean anyway? And they've got completely taken in with this. No, it's very clear. Ever closer union. If you have ever closer union, what do you get to? Well, if it's ever closer, you will ultimately get to the point of union. It's not rocket science. Walking to the visitor centre and
go on. Oh, Robin, where's he gone? Robin Horsley's gone. He's disappeared. Bless him. I'll tell you, it's all go, isn't it? Right. We've got a bit of a they've gone back in to have another vote and all that. They're sorting that out, so I'll come back to them in a minute. And I guess I'll try and get Robin back on the blower. He's probably still talking. He's probably talking merrily away to himself. I almost can guarantee it. But he'll work it out in a second, and he'll call me back. So I think I'm just going to leave him to it for a sec, and bring you a bit of comedy value, because I think we could all do with it. And Guido is saying that bollocks to Burko stickers are appearing in Parliament. Burko, of course, has got his bollocks to Brexit thing hanging in his car, which he said, oh, but it's my wife's car. I just happened to park it in the parliamentary spot with the thing saying bollocks to Brexit. And so why should it be a problem? As though it isn't a problem. Of course it's a problem. Anyway, yes, apparently bollocks to Burko stickers are appearing in Parliament. That is karma. A co-conspirator has informed Guido that following Burko's flagrant partisan picking of amendments this afternoon, these creative stickers have been popping up around the parliamentary estate. So far, no one appears to have been brave enough to stick one on his car. Sign the petition for the Queen to prorogue Parliament is the top comment there. And I hope, did I? I think I did. Maybe I didn't. There it is. Yeah, I'm going to pin that to the top. Sign that petition, people. Get people to sign it, share it. Make sure people are aware of what it's about, and it seems to me that that is something. If we could get a, as somebody said, thank you. 100,000 is all we need. Just another 35,000 or so. But if we could get a couple of 100,000, the more the merrier. The more the merrier. Hey, Robin, you disappeared, sir.
Back with you, Ollie.
That's all right. Thank you. No worries. I was just saying, old Burko. Could you turn that volume down on your tab, please?
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Sorry.
I was just saying, old Burko, John Burko, is getting a bit of karma today because apparently, according to Guido, bollocks to Burko stickers are appearing in Parliament. So anyway, yeah, a bit of comeuppance.
He's a powerful man.
Go on. Oh, what?
He's a powerful man, isn't he? I mean, he didn't allow one of the amendments, which my brain has just fried. Sorry about that, by the way. I don't know what happened there. I think I upset somebody in Brussels, didn't I? When I was talking about.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. No, it's all right. We're not back with that yet. I can tell you which one he denied today. It was the Brexiteers, the ERG, asking Parliament to rule out the possibility of a second referendum, and he didn't. Am I correct in thinking that he chose to refuse that?
He did.
Or was it the other way round? He chose to refuse it.
He chose to refuse it. Yeah.
And so no amendment on that one. In fact, here it is on the front page of Breitbart. Remainer Speaker Burko blocks vote on stopping second Brexit referendum. He has been flying very, very close to the wind, has he not, Robin? Throughout this procedure,
he has. I mean, it's we got rid of the last speaker, if you remember. Douglas Carswell got rid of the last speaker, and this is kind of Burko just seems to have been a bit of a disaster as a speaker.
The difference is, though, you know what? Gosh, truth, I can't remember who the last speaker was offhand.
Michael Martin.
Oh, it was Martin. Right, okay. I don't remember the circumstances of him being gotten rid of. The thing is with this guy, Burko, the vast majority of parliamentarians share his views. That's the problem, isn't it? And they don't understand the importance of having a bipartisan chair.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's very difficult to have this situation where a speaker is an elected member of parliament and then to expect them to be suddenly independent. It's a very difficult problem.
Yeah. I just I think that this is such a naive view that so many in our society have. To so arrogant as well. I'm right. You're wrong. Yeah, I tell you what. Personally, I reckon that Bertrand Russell had it right. That the world is full of idiots that think they know everything, and only a few wise enough to realise that they probably don't. And I would say that is the reason that democracy is a sacred ground, because it basically allows me and others to make lots of mistakes and just be human. But these parliamentarians, they don't seem to care about that. Let's see what else.
I think there's another part of it, Ollie, which is is democracy is something that occurs as a result of conflict, because it preempts conflict resolution with violence. That's really what it comes down to, isn't it? And conversely, though, when democracy is ignored, what are people left with? And that's the real problem at the moment. If parliamentarians ignore democracy, they incite violence. It's that simple.
Yeah. This is I think a subject that we're going to be discussing a little bit more as we approach supposed Brexit Day. The Telegraph, just to give their headlines so far whilst we wait for this next result, which should just be a few minutes, I guess. Brexit latest news, reprieve for Theresa May, says Telegraph, as MPs fail in bid to seize control of Brexit by 2 votes. So they were unable to seize parliamentary time next week. Watch the Brexit debate and votes in the live stream above. Bid by MPs to seize control of Brexit fails by 2 votes. And so that's, as Robin was explaining, that was Hilary Benn's bid to have the Commons set aside parliamentary time next week to continue trying to sell us into why we're all such a bunch of very stupid, very, very right-wing idiots, and that they're right, and we need their kind of libtardia. Donald Trump attacks Theresa May's handling of Brexit. MPs reject bid to force second referendum by 249 votes. That was absolutely thrashed. MPs reject bid to force second referendum by 249 votes. I would have thought, even though it's not in any way absolutely binding, Robin, I would have thought that is a big psychological blow for remorons, frankly.
Yeah, that's right, and I think the spokesman from the People's Vote, I hate even saying the word People's Vote. It's such an insult to 17.4 million, even calling them that. Yeah. To the let's call it the Losers Vote. So spokesman from the Losers Vote said, this is not the time to do it. Well, they know they're going to lose. I mean, there is no appetite. There is no appetite at all in the country or in Parliament for a second referendum. There is only a small minority of people in this country that think you can treat democracy with the contempt like that. And I think it's now. I think that's been useful vote, because it shows even in parliamentary terms what a repulsive idea the whole thing is. And I hope now we'll just stop seeing the BBC constantly inviting people onto political programmes to talk about having another referendum.
Oh, that's right.
It's just not on. It's just not on. Well, you do not. When you have a referendum, you have to implement the result. We knew it was going to take quite a long time to implement the result. Vote Leave said they would not even trigger Article 50 until they had put in place the arrangements that were needed with the European Union, because otherwise they'd be constantly running against the clock and being forced into corners. Now, unfortunately, the government under Theresa May didn't take note of that. Now, hang on, we've got this coming through now.
Let's have a listen.
The ayes to the right, 302, and the noes to the left, 318.
302, 318.
The ayes to the right, 302. The noes to the left, 318. So the noes have it. The noes have it. Unlocked.
Right. So what was that one, Robin? Not putting you on the spot, sir. One of us has to be organised, and let's face it, it's you.
No, that's fine. So that was a Labour amendment which was led by Jeremy Corbyn, and it was to provide parliamentary time for the House to find a majority for a different approach, which would have been a series of indicative votes, basically.
And so that's gone down. That has gone down. That is superb news. Is that?
So it's quite similar to the previous Benham amendment as well. So it was quite a similar amendment. So yeah, that's gone down as well.
Okay, all right. It's actually, maybe, is it telling? Is it not telling, sir, that the leader of the opposition's bid was voted down by 16 votes, and yet his deputy, what is he, the Shadow Justice Minister or something? Oh no, the Shadow Brexit geezer, Keir Starmer's bid went down by only 2 votes.
Well, it was the Benn amendment. It was called, but
it was Hillary Benn. It wasn't Keir Starmer, but same thing. They're actually joined at the hip.
It was a cross-party. So there were Conservative rebels on that side and Labour rebels probably when they start to unwrap who voted how.
Yeah.
You'll see that. So, but basically, what it's saying is that that showed the fragility of the government with rebels on the Conservative side. They've got 2 votes to play with at the moment, so they needed a couple of cabinet ministers to resign on the Remain side, and we're in a little bit of trouble.
Right. Okay.
So I wouldn't read too much into that. We've got 16 votes there. Difference, isn't there?
Where are we going now? What are they doing? Are they off to go up and get some subsidised slice of cake, or are they?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. People think MPs don't work very hard, but I mean, they are tonight, aren't they?
Yeah, it's good to see.
There we go.
They're never as busy in that chamber as when they're discussing their expenses, though, are they? And their pay rise. So what's this? What are they voting for now, then?
Well, this is the Bryant amendment,
right?
Which is
you carry on, and I will go through a bit more of. Well, unless you want to,
This is quite technical. Let me just try and explain. Yeah. So
okay, fine.
Essentially, what this is about the fact that this was a question brought up during the debate yesterday on the Labour side by Angela Eagle.
Angela Eagle. Yep, she piped up. Yep.
I just heard you put the volume up there. I think.
Oh, sorry, I was turning it down. No. He's just. I think he's just organising the counters, the tellers.
Yeah, the tellers. Yeah. So Angela Eagle put the question to the Speaker on a point of order and said, "Look, there is a convention, is there not? That means that Parliament cannot bring forward the same piece of the same motion for." Debate more than once in I think is a parliamentary year or parliamentary session, which is usually roughly a year. And what you do on these sort of questions is you go back to a publication called Erskine May, which has recorded all the parliamentary conventions and processes.
Mm-hmm.
And really what it comes down to is that the Speaker can make a judgment on whether or not the substance of the motion is the same as it was previously. So that's really in the Speaker's gift. But this is really an amendment that says if the amendment was passed, it could give the Speaker the power to block another vote on May's deal, as it's already been voted down twice by Parliament already. I'm not sure about this amendment at all. I'm not sure. I think the Speaker has the Speaker has accepted this. I don't know what's going on here. I mean, the Speaker has accepted this amendment to give him power that he already has. So the only motivation I can see for him having accepted this amendment to be going forward would be to sort of give more authority to that power. But again, I think it'll be defeated by a fair margin. I mean, I'm not sure if how slim it'll be. Actually, it'll be defeated, but I'm not sure by how much, and that would be quite interesting to look at.
I've just
bit of a technicality.
Thank you, Robin. I've just put a note up on on the feed on Facebook, but also on YouTube. If you want to call in on Skype, you can. You know what? Something amazing has happened. I noticed today when William Prentice called in about half an hour ago or so that Skype has put back the kind of add to call feature that they used to have, which means that people can now call in. And it doesn't mean that I have to cut off whoever's already on the line. So we can have callers, and you can ask Robin questions, you can make your points, and so on and so forth. And there's a number to do that. It's a Skype number. It's a UK national rate number. So you can call it from any phone, and it is 033 000 11264. And I've put that as a pinned comment on old Facebook, and I will endeavour to do so on YouTube as well. But that's awesome that we've got this new Skype feature back, because I cannot tell you how much of a problem telephony has been on this show, and how much it frustrates this guy here who just wants to hear what people have got to say. And that is, I think, what our country needs, is to listen to what people have to say instead of trying to just say, I don't want to hear what you've got to say because I'm right and you're wrong. Now Skype apparently is back on the side of talk radio. Cheers, Skype. Appreciated. Very, very much so. And why you ever got rid of the call of... they've had a lot of pressure over that one, I'll bet. But anyway, that's great news. I will put a thing on YouTube as well. Okay. So they'll be coming back. Right, okay. So I still don't understand it, Robin. The Brighton Amendment, I'm sorry.
Actually, hang on. I'm not sure if that amendment was withdrawn then, because all I can see now on Sky is that it's saying they're voting on the government motion. I don't know if that Sky's got it wrong or we've got it wrong. Either's possible.
Or both. The way things are going. Right, okay.
I was expecting that amendment, but it could have been withdrawn, because the difficulty is, while we're talking, of course, we can't really watch to the extent we can pick up all the detail that's happening. We can only see the big event. Okay, it's Stavros says it's the Brighton Amendment. It's not been moved. To the extent we can pick up. Oh, sorry. Does he mean it's not moved? I.e., yes, it was withdrawn, the amendment. Nobody moved the motion, the amendment. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not been moved off the agenda for the day. No.
No. Hang on, Stav. Can you clarify, please?
Okay, Stavros, God bless you.
The world is dependent entirely upon your ability to press the buttons in front of you.
No pressure, mate. Amanda Rolfson, she's hanging out on YouTube now. I see. She was Facebook. Yeah, people they're changing their loyalties. Yeah. And you should never need loyalty to any of these bloody networks. Oh my word. Amanda Rolfson says, Ollie, Michael Martin today announced he would relinquish his post as Commons Speaker in the wake of calls for him to go because of his failure of leadership over the expenses scandal. Oh, right, okay. Hold on. Are we back?
Failure of leadership over...
No, he's I thought that was Burko's about to... can I see the YouTube comments? Asked Mark Gabb. I can now, Mark. I can now, sir. Neil Desperandum. That was the point of the Tower of Babel. It was an attempt to get one people to ascend towards the heaven and usurp God's authority. I don't know whether this is a reference to Burko or what.
No, this is a reference to us talking about Esperanto and lots of different languages across Europe, and the difficulty, therefore, of having a democracy.
And Lauren Kane says, Robin Tilbrook, a solicitor and chairman of the English Democrats, has started proceedings against the UK government. It's unlawful to pursue an extension of Article 50. Can Robin comment? Robin.
Sorry, who is this on YouTube comment?
Yeah, this is on YouTube comment. Sorry, Lauren Kane is saying a solicitor and chairman of the English Democrats, Robin Tilbrook, has started proceedings against the UK government. I did read a story about this earlier, actually. Yeah, somebody is now basically taking the government to court, saying what they're doing is illegal somehow. What, according to Lauren, he is saying it is unlawful to pursue an extension of Article 50. Can Robin comment?
Yeah, well, Yeah, that's quite. It is an there's quite a few different questions surrounding this. I mean,
this is a fascinating point.
It is a fascinating point. I mean, there's been quite a lot of discussion about this blocking an extension by bringing a case. There was David Trimble was looking at doing something similar to this.
That's right. Northern Ireland's first minister. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah.
What a thing! What a thing!
Was looking at doing something similar with this. There's also the question whether or not an extension or even worse, a revocation of Article 50, whether or not those could force a claims for compensation as well. So,
yeah,
even if they could go through, would they just create a huge debt that the government would have to pay, because they would every company and every individual who'd incurred cost as a result of the law being that we leave on March the 29th can make a claim against the government accordingly.
There are so many
there are
things
lots
that
of,
we could claim
we can only,
for over the
I mean,
years, though,
Lauren,
along those lines.
I'm not sure what we can do apart from just highlight your point, really. That yeah, there are various different legal challenges being talked about and being pursued at the moment, and we'll just have to see how those kind of wash through. But always the problem is that who's the ultimate law of the land? The ECJ.
The ECJ.
That's our problem. Once you give up the ability to make law to a foreign power, it's a very difficult situation, which is why I feel that we've got to leave March 29th. I have debates with all kinds of people about this. Some people saying, well, maybe a delay is the most practical thing to have. It's like, no, it is not. A delay is not a practical thing to have at all. Anything can happen, and we all know that the people who are asking for delays are not asking for delays. It's just code for wanting to remain.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
I completely agree with you. Let's take a few more comments on Facebook whilst we wait for the comments to come back in and continue this pantomime. Mike Owens says Parliament has shot itself in the foot. They must be held to account for their crime. Andrew Fawcett says it wouldn't be the government that would have to pay a penalty. It would be us, the taxpayers. Yeah, it's a bit like suing the BBC, isn't it? We're kind of suing ourselves. It's suing the BBC for covering up paedophilia and stuff like that, or for being biased, or for generally not being honest about the reality of the EU. Steve Somerset says lawful rebellion is close. Tarek Musa simply says out means out. And James Miller says the EU have 65% control of UK, and every month we extend will cost 1 billion. That's the 65%. What does that refer to? Any idea, Robin? I know that they want to charge us 1 billion a month for any extension, or that's what I heard yesterday.
I mean, that's one suggestion. I'm not sure how valid that is. I think what James is probably referring to is percentage of law. I mean, there are various different calculations to what extent of UK laws are actually made in Brussels these days, or Brussels or Strasbourg. But
it is most of it, though, isn't it? Most of the legislation that we're being lumbered with comes from Brussels, not Westminster these days, no?
Yeah, I mean, legislation is made in three ways, actually. There are either directives or regulations, and some of those need to, one of those categories, and I always confuse which one, so I'm not going to commit myself to one. One of those categories means that they are points that are implemented. They are implemented by the Parliament, by the state Parliament, if you like, and so therefore can take into account to a degree the specific situation in a particular nation. And the other ones are just, that's the way it is. It's difficult to calculate exactly what the percentage is, but yeah, most people, other than Nick Clegg used to say, "Oh, it's only 15%," and people used to laugh at him because it was just ridiculous. But then he used to say all kinds of stupid things like the EU. Oh, they'd never want military army. They didn't want any of that.
Right.
So Nick Clegg just told the most outrageous lies, and then
dangerous
went
fantasy.
To Facebook.
He called it, didn't he?
So
dangerous.
So I think
fantasy.
65% is a realistic sort of number to be looking at. Yeah.
Okay, we seem to have another vote tally.
The ayes to the right, 412. The noes to the left, 202.
Okay.
Bigger gap. So what's that?
No,
that
is the motion. That is the motion. That is not another amendment. That is the motion.
The noes to the left, 202. So the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Unlock. Order.
Hello?
Point of order, Mr. Jeremy.
So let me get this right. The motion to extend Article... Hold on, who's that? Oh, hello. You're on Daily Brexit. Who's that, sir?
It's Mr. Conway, Mark Conway.
Just bear with me a sec. Just one sec. Let's have a listen to old Corbyn and see what he's got to say about his motion,
Meetings with members across
which has
the
been
House
defeated.
to find a consensus and a compromise that meets the needs of this country. But the last few days have also put a responsibility on the Prime Minister. First, to publicly accept that both her deal and no deal are simply no longer viable options. And secondly, to bring forward the necessary legislation to amend the exit date of the 29th of March. Tonight, Mr. Speaker, I reiterate our conviction that a deal can be agreed based on our alternative plan that can command support.
Okay, he's not really saying anything that we haven't heard before. Robin, can you just explain to us again, very, very briefly, please, what was just defeated by a very substantial majority of over 200?
Robin, can you just explain to us again, very, very briefly, please, what was just defeated by a very substantial majority of over 200?
Speaker, the whole purpose ought to be to protect communities that are stressed and worried. Those people are worried about the
that's Robin.
That's Robin. Industries. Our job is to try to meet the concerns of the people.
I realised, Robin, I just cut you off. Actually, it was my fault. That I do apologise. Okay, so Corbyn's just been defeated with what he wanted. By a massive chunk. Hold on a sec. Oh no. Oh dear. Whoever called in there, I can't. I'm going to cut him off because. Oh dear. I'm going to have to cut him off. I do apologise. Look, when you call in, folks, do us a favour and mute your tab listening to the show, because otherwise it all gets very, very confusing indeed. Yeah, please do that. But I want to hear what you got to say. Right, Robin. Okay, so what was just defeated there by such a wide majority again? Just to be clear.
No, it wasn't defeated. It was won.
Oh, Struth. That was okay. So Jeremy Corbyn's what he wants won by over 200 votes.
No. That was the motion. So the motion, the government motion, has now been passed. So it won the motion to extend Article 50.
Oh,
you got that?
Right. Okay. So that's what just passed. The government now has won the motion to extend Article 50, if they want to.
Well, subject to, if they pass the withdrawal agreement next week, to go to the EU and ask for an extension until June, the end of June. Right. And if it is not passed next week, to go and ask them for an extension anyway, which could be much longer, and therefore could involve having European elections in the UK.
So really, this is at the crux of what this solicitor that Lauren Kane mentioned in her comment is trying to fight off, which is this extending Article 50. This we have just seen now how important people like him are.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's not. Bear in mind, though, this doesn't stop us leaving on the 29th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All it means is that the government, let's say the withdrawal agreement is defeated again next week, the government then on the 21st requests an extension from the European Union. The European Union have then got to agree an extension. So bear in mind that's the 21st and we leave on the 29th. In that period of time, they've got to agree a time limit on an extension, and then the European Union will inevitably attach some conditions to that. So then our government has got to agree to those conditions, and then they've got to come back to Parliament and pass the required legislation in order to be able to do that. That's a pretty tall order. So it does not by any means mean that we're not leaving on the 29th. It is still in the balance.
You called in, sir. Somebody. Thank you.
Yes, Ollie.
Yes.
Mark. My name is.
I'm sorry?
Mark.
Hey, Mark. What would you like to say?
First of all, Ollie, just one point. You're leaving phone numbers up on the screen, which is visible to everybody else.
Go on. My what number? What number?
You left my phone number up on there. I can see it.
Oh, blimey. Oh, mate. Oh, for crying out loud. Oh, dear. Yeah.
It's got their name and their phone number, so you can still see things up there now.
I'll be phoning you in the middle of the night, Mark.
It will be up for another 10
I don't mind you
minutes.
phoning me.
Oh, Mark. Oh, you're right. You're absolutely
Just
right.
to annoy you.
You're absolutely right.
Absolutely. You annoy me all you want, my friend. I thoroughly enjoy your programme.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you. And I do apologise for just... I don't blimey. I shouldn't have put telephone numbers up on the screen. I do apologise for that. I will try and never do that again. That was very, very bad indeed. Okay, Mark, what else would you like to say, sir?
Well, I just think it's despicable what's going on in the House of Commons. And I think we're just being sailed down the river. I think we're being treated absolutely appalling. I think that the government have all got their hands in the pockets of corporations throughout Europe, and that's why they're pushing not to leave. And they're just dismissing our vote. I think they're in breach of a few laws. I think they could be even sued under the Misrepresentation Act 1967 because they have made false misrepresentations to act on our behalf. And when we voted to leave, they never. And they're just doing their damn best so we don't leave. So I do think that they could be done for that and maybe took to court on that.
Yeah.
Because all contracts are void or should be voided. So sexting. Never mind sexting me as well.
Hey? Who's sexting?
Forceful.
No, someone just made a comment there saying, sexting begins tonight, Mark.
Aye. That's
well,
Sarah,
I've been to see Tommy
Boland,
today in court.
Hey? Go on, Mark.
I've been to see Tommy today in court.
Oh, yeah? Yes. So what happened there?
So, it's very interesting. The judge now has called it a day, and they're going to review it again tomorrow. And they're just going to be, I suppose, get passing the judgment, reading out whether she agrees with it or not. But first of all, she's got to go and do a speech at a school somewhere, which is more important. So that won't be carrying on until about 1 o'clock. But I managed to sit down with Tommy and Danny Tomo and have a Nando's with them, and everyone was fine, and they're looking in high spirits and ready to go and fight the rest of the battles for us. And I can't wait for the 29th. I'm going out of the country tomorrow, but I should be back the 29th, flying into London with my pitchfork and my riot shields and whatnot.
Good on
and
you,
I think we should empty the House of Commons, everybody. Everybody get down there.
Well, Robin's going to be...
It's a shame, Mark, isn't it, that the MPs won't actually be there on the 29th. I don't blame them, do you?
Well, I wouldn't blame them either. I suspect that the army would be called out. We might see armoured personnel carriers in blue with the European flag on them. Who knows what might happen? He might even call up martial law and get the army out and shoot a few people, I suppose. I don't know. The way the government's going, I wouldn't be surprised.
So what's your connection with Tommy then, Mark?
No, I don't have a connection. I certainly have some support pages with him. I've shown my support for him because I do think he's speaking for a lot of people that don't really want to vote. You know, the people that's always sat back and gone, I can't be asked. Well, I think it's them people that are more inclined to agree with Tommy, and he's woken them up, I think, and made them have an interest in politics. And certainly I've noticed a lot more people interested in politics, and it's often a conversation now you could have in the pub instead of, rather than football sometimes.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, absolutely, it's true. I mean, it was I always felt, I don't know about you, Mark, do you mind me just rattling on, Ollie?
No, please do.
No, yeah. I always felt that, and I remember I wrote a piece in 2016, just as we were approaching the 23rd of June for the vote, saying that, you know, this extraordinary thing happened from March 2016, was everybody started talking about politics suddenly. For years, people have been saying how off politics people were, how apathetic people were to politics. And do you know what I mean, Mark? And it sort of suddenly started everybody talking about politics.
Absolutely. I've always been interested in politics ever since the Yes Minister days.
Really? Yeah.
But showing my age a wee bit. But I've always been fascinated by politics. But it's good to even share it now with some of my friends who are considered not maybe not politically motivated in any way, but they're certainly interested now, and it has made people more waking up to it. And I think that's why we are getting big turnouts and big votes. And I think it will proceed, and especially if we don't leave on the 29th, God knows what's going to happen. I don't see a good thing happening anyway. I think that on the 29th we'll see London burn. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah.
You know,
I think there's going to be all factions of all different communities there. The leavers, the stayers, the wanna-goers, the in-betweeners, the binaries,
yeah.
and many more parties and whatnot. But I think it's going to be bad anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I don't think we're going to see is you know, street warfare between Remainers and Leavers. Funnily enough, I went to the Remain marches back in last summer, and to be honest, they were carnivals. People were being bussed in. People were paying for buses and bussing people in from, you know, the outskirts of London and, you know, slightly further afield. And it was a carnival atmosphere. They weren't there really protesting. They were having a day out in London, in the sunshine. There's very, very few people, you know, who would really want to clash with Leavers. I think it's the people against the establishment. That's really what it's going to be.
And right, I do think though that the climate's changed though, and you're talking about last summer, but I'm admin on a couple of sites of the Yellow Vests and a couple of other things, and what I've noticed is that we've all said, you know, peaceful protest and, you know, be respectful and that, so then we don't blacken our names and whatnot. But I've noticed that as we get closer to the 29th, there's more people, even the older generation, that are going, you know, sorry for the language, but fuck this, I've had enough of this. And they've even started to say things like, you know, time for speaking is finished, action is needed now, civil unrest is needed now, disruption's needed now. And so it gives that air a lot more, I don't know, there seems a lot more potency in what people are saying now. And as compared to the summer, I've noticed that as admin myself, just the general talk has even changed. You know, I do think it's going to be chaos in London. And as much as I'd shake a hand to any person or any man or any creed or anything like that stood next to me, I do think that a lot of people are now turning towards the government and saying, why aren't you respecting democracy? You are making a disgusting disgrace of the United Kingdom, you scum.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people is on their tongues and on their mind. And that does invoke anger. And of course, people with anger then may act. You know, I do think it can get over the top, and I think it is because of just how people feel. They just feel there's no way out. There's no way to turn. Who is supposed to come down and rescue us all? There's no white charger. There's no knight in shining armour. We're for the hell pit, and that's it. And the government's going to take us wherever they want to lead us. Mm-hmm. You know, that's
yeah. Somebody in the comments has just asked, you know, does civil unrest really change anything? Well, I think protest sends a message, and then I think action. If we look at the actions that have been taken by the Labour movement, really, that have changed things in the past, and probably in the time of certainly our childhood. Mark, I'm not sure what age you are, Ollie, but
I'm 50.
Yeah, well, I'm 50 this year actually as well.
Really?
So
Hey, I turned 50 this year. You're not.
Yeah, well, there we go.
We're all
Olly,
bastards.
Ollie, we know you're 38.
Go on.
Yeah. Yeah, you look a lot younger
mate.
than me, Ollie. That's a bit depressing.
But you do look like the goodies, of which that is very old.
Goodies.
But I think if we go back to the memories of our own sort of childhood, the political memories, we remember the Labour Party on the left, and bringing the country to a standstill. And I hope that that's what it means, is that we will find that people will bring the country to a standstill with direct action, as opposed to violence against other people. Because I just don't think it takes two to fight, and I don't think we're going to find Remainers on the streets who want to fight for Remain. Because I went to a Remain event a long time ago. Well, this time last year, and there was a lot of guilt in the room. There were a lot of people who were very kind of vehement Remain voters, if you like, people who really, really wanted to be part of the European Union, mainly because of quite deluded views about what it actually represents, but who, even so, felt a great degree of guilt about even talking about attempting to overthrow democracy. So, do you know what I mean?
Well, I remember back years ago when they was implementing the EU rules and regulations into our system back in the early 90s, and they was talking about how we want to keep our sovereignty and our traditions and our House of Lords and our House of Commons. But that seems to be sailed down the river. If we stay in the EU, we've lost that anyway. What's their purpose? All it is a nice big old house with a lot of history, with a load of pompous twits inside it. I think there's a common ground between everyone, and that's the government's letting us down, regardless whether you're a Remainer or a Brexiteer. Of course, I don't want to be fighting anybody, and I don't say that anybody should. But what I do think that these people should bring this country to a standstill and make sure the wealth of this country knows, and they lose money every single day. Whether that cuts down the communications, as they've done with Tommy, cut off his communications, slander him, and take away his finances. I think that should be done to these corporations and the governments and whatnot. Yeah. And I think cutting off their communications, i.e. towers and such like that, cables, I don't know, maybe I think some really strong action is needed.
I think that's what is the most likely outcome. I was up in London last week, going to a meeting, or the week before, I think, going to a meeting, and my train had been cancelled. So I arrived at Waterloo, cancelled train, very aware that I was already half an hour late for a meeting. Jumped in a cab because I looked on my phone. It was going to be about 10 minutes quicker to get to my location going by cab than it was by tube. So I thought, well, hang the 10 or 15 quid it will cost me for a cab. I don't want to let these people down that are waiting for me. So I jumped into a cab, and the cab was going over Westminster Bridge, and then came to a halt. And I said, what's going on? What's going on? And I looked out, and there was just a sea of black cabs, and all the black cabs that had gone to Parliament Square and stopped. And it was a protest. And I was immediately, therefore, a victim of this protest. The meeting I went to, I was almost an hour late. And that was a tiny microcosm. The French are on the streets burning things, smashing up cars, buildings, setting fire to things. We don't need to do that. We need to just bring the city to a halt.
It needs to be. It does need to be closed down, stopped, not for days. I think the Saturday thing is just pointless because no one's at work. It isn't really having a great effect. They're just sitting back at home in their country estates, thinking, "Look at them idiots in London doing what they're doing, and we don't even live there." No one's at work doing it. And I think people should go down there Monday morning, 8 o'clock. Around that M25 and block that up. Let's see what it's like then. Because none of them will get to work. None of their banks will be open. Maybe even get some super glue and fill up all the locks you come across. So they can't. I know damn well if you put super glue in a council lock, 15 of them would look at it for 3 hours, and then 10 hours later they might get some fella down to come and do it. So I think there's great action in it. Or they're not violent. Of course, yes, it is a bit disruptive and it may be against the law. But it's so maddening and gets you going. And I suppose it's a good job I'm controlling myself, but there's a lot of people that's going to be going there 11 o'clock at night, 11 p.m. That's the time bomb, I think, isn't it? I suppose a lot of people will be drinking and whatnot. I don't know. I see there's going to... Well, I do. I think there's going to be all kinds of trouble.
I'm sure you're right. Mark.
I hope not. And I hope that the government gets taken out in some way. But I can't see a party just springing up in the next couple of weeks and going, "Here, we're your saviours. We'll do what we're asked."
No, that's right. Well, I mean, I think what we'll see, we'll certainly see that if well, based on the motion tonight, and it is only based on the motion tonight, which is not binding, but the government is having won their own motion is unlikely not to pursue it. But based on the motion tonight, if the withdrawal agreement is not voted through next week, then it means European elections effectively is what the government said.
We're not going to be involved in that.
Well, no, we would be in that case, because if we were extending beyond the end of June, we'd be involved in European elections. Therefore, the Brexit Party will swing into action.
So what about the Lisbon Treaty? That's ratified in 2020, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if we cross that point, we're no return anyway, aren't we?
No, there's an awful lot of nonsense being flying around the internet on the Lisbon Treaty. Go back and read it. There is so much nonsense, I've actually forgotten what the truth is on the Lisbon Treaty.
Truthfully, I haven't read it myself, so I am saying a bit of ignorance, so please forgive me on that. But I read so many documents, and I'm kind of going around the bend with reading it all, and I'm just sick to death of it all, and I wish the government would accept the vote, act on the vote, and leave Europe. Simple as that. In all fairness, I think we should stay in the EU, but not in its current format. I think the UK should be leading the EU, not Brussels and all the rest of the Egypt.
You're a secret Remainer, Mark. What's going on?
No. I do think there's a lot of good to be had from the EU. I really do. I do think it's a superpower, and I do think that's a bad move as moving away from that superpower. But in its current format of the way it's being ran, the corruption, everything about it is absolutely upside down and back to front. It is. I can't see no good coming out of it. The USSR was broke up because of the same things I think that we're going to experience if we stay in it. I just think it's all back to front. If they turn around and scrapped it and then started again from it, then yes, I do see a way where I'd say, yes, it's good to be in Europe and we want to stay in Europe. But in the way it is, absolutely not, no.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, yeah. Ollie, I think I've forgotten that you run this show, not me.
No. I tell you, it's great.
Anyway, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow night, everyone.
It's fantastic.
No problem, Ollie. Join in when you want.
I like having it easy. That's nice. Thank you very, very much indeed. I just looking and seeing what's going on with the headlines, any changes or what have you. I didn't realise that Varadkar was there with Trump today. When Trump kind of, I don't know, it did sound as though he pretended not to know who Theresa May was just for a sec. I don't know, maybe that was, he generally didn't hear. But shameless Varadkar, according to Express, tries to lure Trump from Britain. Will be years before UK sorts itself, he reckons, during a meeting with US President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. On Thursday. A smirking Leo Varadkar says it will be a few years before the UK sorts itself out. Mr. Trump asked the Irish Premier, it's very sad to see what's happening there. And there was no reason. And I am sure, Leo, I'm sure you will agree with that. Would you like to express your feelings on Brexit? Maybe I should not let you do it. I'll just get you into trouble. Oh, that's hilarious. In response, Mr. Varadkar said, we have a different opinion at present. I regret that Brexit is happening and the UK was a really important part of the European Union. Yeah,
Varadkar's just a con man.
Yeah, of course he is. But they are going now, and that's their decision. But the most important thing for us is that their decision to leave shouldn't cause any problems in Northern Ireland, where people actually voted to stay, and that we shouldn't have a hard. Yeah. Some probably voted to leave too. Guess what? But that's a very interesting. I didn't realise that Varadkar was there when he was having a bit of a go. And Trump said that the Brexit negotiation went badly. PM May didn't listen to my advice, and apparently, according to this report on Breitbart, the US president took to Twitter this morning to talk up the future trade deal he hopes the US will be able to strike with a newly liberated UK in the future, should it ever succeed in leaving the European
don't want that.
Union. Hey, what? You don't want what?
I don't want no deals with Trump. Well, don't want no deals with Europe. I mean, don't want no deals with Europe or America.
Why don't we want a trade deal with the States? Why don't we want a trade deal with Europe,
the
for that matter? Having trade deals is okay, no?
TPD. I can't remember what it's called.
TTIP.
TTIP.
But I don't like it anyway. I don't like that deal. I don't like Europe. I don't like America. I'd rather stay English all the way. Get out of the EU.
Ah, blimey.
I like Trump. I do like Trump. I like the way he's shaking up the place. You know, they brought a business mind into this situation instead of gobshites. Here we've just got gobshites. You know, we give them billions every year and they can't do it. And they can't earn money for us. So instead they want to sell off everything to their mates. That's what they want to do.
Oh, well, I'm about a million miles away from you on that. I'm not very keen on Trump at all, frankly. I don't associate. I find it very frustrating when people associate Brexit with Trump. I think they're two entirely different things.
Absolutely, I agree with you there.
Yeah. They are separate things. I'll tell you what, though, it has to be said. I've made this point to you before, Robin, but it is true, isn't it? Had Hillary Clinton got into power, we would be further away from Brexit than ever we are at the moment. It seems to me.
Yeah, I think there's I think Trump. I'm not sure ultimately it makes a massive difference. But
he clearly doesn't like the EU, does he?
Certainly, Trump has he's put his oar in a few times. Whether that's actually made a big difference, I don't know, to be perfectly honest. But
I don't know.
I'd rather Mr. Putin come over and took over the reins.
Choices, Harp. I wanted to point out some. I'll tell you the one thing I like about Trump. The one thing I really like about Trump, because I don't know whether or not it's kind of some kind of psyop or what, the whole thing that's going on stateside, I don't know. But one thing that it seems to me that he has done is he has woken people up to the lies that are peddled by the media. And I think that was absolutely crucial for reasons that I mentioned earlier in the show, and in my opinion, the importance of journalism. But I don't know. I mean, what would you say to that, Robin?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Actually, I think credit where it's due. Certainly by bringing up the whole fake news thing and by calling out some of the news networks. He's brought a lot of awareness to it, and he had championed. First of all, he championed disintermediation, so talking directly via social media to the people, and he was prepared to say things which appeared to be outrageous in order to get publicity on mainstream media, which then drove traffic to him on social media, which then meant he could communicate directly with the people. And this is all back to this stuff that I mean, Nigel Farage was talking about at CPAC, which is the Conservative conference in the States every year.
Yeah.
Which Nigel Farage was talking about a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about the fact that Andrew Breitbart left this warning behind that said, Andrew Breitbart, the guy who started Breitbart, who died unexpectedly in 2012. He had warned before he died that censorship would occur on social media because it was such a threat to the establishment's method of controlling the narrative by controlling the media, that social media would ultimately be censored. And I can't tell you, I know you probably had a lot of this in the last 24 hours, but I can't tell you how many people have been on Facebook in the last 24 hours saying, look, was all this kind of semi-shutdown of Facebook last night, was it selective?
Yeah.
Was everybody the same?
That's right.
No, it was a mass thing.
No, it was a mass thing, yeah, but whether it was selective or not, whether it was a internal...
Yeah, I thought that. Maybe a bit timed well.
Yeah, who knows? Well, we're not going to know, but I mean, a lot of people speculating about it. Certainly, it may have been a mass thing across continents, but was it only a particular segment of people who were particularly affected? Because I couldn't comment, couldn't post, couldn't share, couldn't do anything really last night.
Nor me.
Yeah.
Nor me. And didn't do the show on Facebook last night. It went out on YouTube only because of the Facebook outage. And but I don't know. I mean, so many folks have been censored on here and what have you. I just want to bring up another story that it seems to me is a very, very important story that people don't know enough about, and that the media never talks about. But it is going on right now whilst this Brexit business is almost a convenient distraction. The kind of thing that I think that my guest a couple of weeks ago, Mark Steele, would say, for example, who is very, very concerned, very, very concerned about 5G, for example, in his case, and saying how Brexit is just a big distraction. We've got way, way bigger things to be concerned about. One of them, is the very, very way that our democracy runs. And we know from the Heath government, from the whip, Tim Fortescue, that they use depravity. MP depravity, or did, in that government that took us into the EEC, to cajole, to blackmail MPs, depraved MPs, into supporting the government. The very government that took us into the EEC, the whip there, Tim Fortescue, admitted that, and actually even referred to scandals involving little boys. I mean, there was no ambiguity here. It's just whether or not he was even referring to the Prime Minister himself, we don't know. That was maybe more ambiguous at that point. But a couple of stories that have come up in the last few days refer to the IICSA, the Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse, which of course has been going on and rumbling about, and we kind of thought was just one big fudge. They do appear to be getting somewhere in terms of the reality of the role of politicians in this horrid way that we've just been dismissing the interests of our nation's children for decades and possibly forever, for all we know. And one of these stories involves David Steele, who sits in the Lords. Who sits in the Lords. And so let's just have a quick look at this. Guido's take on it. I did mention something last night that it had been discussed at the IICSA. Now, look at this. Steele facing disciplinary investigation over pedo cover-up. Now, Lord Steele admits, now this is yesterday's story, this bit, that Cyril Smith confessed to him about abusing children, and he did nothing. And years ago, he joked about this, saying, all he was doing was smacking their bottoms, sort of thing. Well, he wasn't. He was raping them. After admitting under oath, according to Guido, to the Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse, that Cyril Smith confessed in 1979 to abusing boys, 40 years ago, people. Lord Steele is in trouble.
That's disgraceful.
Joe Swinson says the party has rightly begun a disciplinary investigation into Lord Steele following his revelations. Clearly, this is an incredibly serious, and he should be suspended while this takes place. Lib Dem HQ
Absolutely.
Press Office so far unable to confirm the situation.
He should be arrested and remanded in prison. That's what he should be done.
What for what?
I would hope what he'll do is explain the background and explain and expose all the other people that knew about what was going on. Because if you remember, this whole thing has been raging for a very long time. This whole question about child abuse. There was, Ollie, can I fill in some more of the background on this?
Please do.
So one of the last jobs that William Hague did was as Welsh Secretary.
Yes.
One of the last jobs he did in government, in the major government, was as Welsh Secretary of State for Wales. And he instigated an investigation into child abuse in children's homes. And about 1,000 people came forward to say they'd been abused. And one of the stories that came out of that was that there was a systemic, there was this kind of, it was systemic in the children's home. And there was this kind of structure where prominent politicians, prominent police officers. We're part of a network that we're using the children's homes in Wales to procure children for sexual abuse.
That's right.
And there's been lots and lots of discussion about this, but we've never really exposed what was going on. And I think we do need to purge this. We need to get the truth out.
It does sound
absolutely. There's been cover-ups all the way along, though, hasn't there? From day one. Yeah. I remember I actually was in a care home one time, and the abuse that was going on then I was aware of. Never mind, and at the time I didn't understand it. I didn't even really see it. You know, I was kind of blind to it because I was only young. But now it makes me seethe. See, them people. What they need doing is they need to be locked up with the mothers of them kids, and every day the mothers need to go in there for 1 hour, and they're not allowed to kill them. That's what they need to be done. Them sort of people. They're disgraceful, and yet the sentencing for them is ridiculous. They seem to get pats on the bum.
Yeah. Well, if you've got time for a little story on that. I mean, I was working on a political issue a few years ago, and it was to do with the children's home in Wales, and I was looking for some information, so I put out a note on a site called Friends Reunited. I don't know if do you remember it, chaps? Do you remember Friends Reunited?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Asking for people to respond who'd been at this children's home, because it was also a school, so people therefore it appeared as one of the places on this on that site. And a guy came back to me, and I was talking to him about the thing I was investigating. And he said, "Look," Robin, I've got a confession to make. And I said, "Oh, what's that?" He said, "I'm a paedophile." And I said, "Oh, okay. What do you mean by that? What do you mean you're a paedophile?" And he said, I was in a children's home," and he said, this children's home that I was looking at, and he said, I arrived there 3 days. I was stripped naked, locked in what was effectively a cupboard, a large cupboard, for 3 days, abused systematically from the time I went in there. And he said, when it came after a few days to be given some affection by some of the staff there, to be given a hug, I was desperate for it. And when you've been maybe rejected or abused by your family and going to a home, and this was a pretty serious case type people, this particular home, you'll do anything for a bit of affection, and you don't necessarily know what's right and wrong, what you should expect to happen and what you shouldn't expect to happen. And
safety is the main thing. What you expect to happen, safety, to be in a safe environment.
But bear in mind what this guy told me. First of all, he was now telling me about him being abused, but he was saying he was a paedophile, and he said, and this is the problem. He explained this to me, and I hadn't really grasped it up until that point. What he was explaining to me was that as a child, when you start to get positive associations embedded in your mind psychologically, to do with adults doing things inappropriate with you, you don't think of them as bad things. You're happy. You're not being abused in the respect of somebody's forcing you to do something you don't want to do.
That's right.
In fact, what's happening is you're doing something that you do want to do, because the trade is you get some affection. Some people notice you.
This is what the kids were saying.
Therefore, it becomes so psychologically deeply embedded that as an adult, he was saying, that's what you want as well. So you want to do the same in reverse, but you want to be in the adult role then. And he had been caught and convicted, not actually, fortunately, for physical acts, but for child pornography that he'd had on a computer. So he sort of explained this to me. Now, I was very grateful to him for explaining why it occurs, because it is this kind of cycle of abuse that goes over generation to generation. So I don't know, people might find that interesting.
This is
I believe it's crimes against humanity and crimes against society. And any kind of them paedophiles, that's a crime against humanity, and I think that they should get a life sentence. I'd support any party that, first of all, that supports our vote and leaves a Brexit, and brings a life sentence out for nonce cases, and investigates the bankers and arrests every single one of them, and look back at all the MPs that's still alive and all the corruption, and investigate all their accounts. Because now we can't look at their tax returns now. They've made that illegal, haven't they? I think that John Sweeney when he produced the Panama Papers, it was very light. In fact, I made a complaint to the BBC because they focused on that fellow that done, I think it was £1 million or something, and it was very light on it, even though they said there was 180 odd people from Parliament or prominent positions that was in that Panama Papers. And I think John Sweeney done to throw him a curveball for him, and then that's why he hasn't been done for what he said on that Panorama video. He turned around and was racist. He turned around and said things he shouldn't have been saying. He should have been sacked for that.
He certainly
Absolutely
did.
sacked straight away. But he hasn't. And I think that the main thing that's underlying all these politicians is that each of them have got something on each of them. And I think that's what they're all frightened about. And so it's drained the swamp. They're all swamp donkeys, a lot of them.
I just want to add another story into this mix because it's very, very relevant. I think that it is a crime against society as well as against humanity and against the individuals. And the reason I mention the society thing, just as an aside, before I mention the story, is because it does affect society. So it's a huge cost to society. Obviously, what happens to the individual is the worst thing. Then again, you could argue if it's a political paedophile, if democracy is somehow being usurped or bent because of the depravity of individuals, then that affects a far, far larger group of people again.
Absolutely.
So that's probably the worst of all. But there is another cost, and that is on society, because you're damaging people. You're not only damaging them, but you're damaging the people all around them, people that care about them, for example, and so on and so forth. And then it goes through to the next generation. Some people, that is a massive. I hate to think what the cost is to society, but
it's a lifetime. It's a lifetime.
Yes, it
of
is,
pain.
isn't it? It is.
Scars.
It is absolutely.
For someone that suffers at the hands of these.
Let me just
Did
mention.
you come across it yourself, or did other kids you were in home with?
Absolutely, yeah, I did, yeah. I did, yeah. I've recently reported 3 of them as well, because I remember their names. I remember. Do you know what was on the? I remember being locked in a side room because I was put in a care home for my own safety when I was a kid. Because my father was a bit of a well, it won't go to that. That's neither here or there. Yeah. It was a bit violent, but I was put in a care home when I was. Love of the Common People was on the radio at the time with Paul Young. He was number 1. And I was locked in this side room, and I was allowed to play pool all night on my own, and no one looking after me at all. And I loved it. I thought, that's great. I didn't realise what was going on until one evening I come back a little bit early, and I looked through the window just to see who was there, and I seen that one of the staff with one of the kids on the settee. And I didn't know what to take of it. I just didn't understand it at the time. Yeah. And I thought, And I walked in, and then all of a sudden they was on different settees, acting all different. And then what? As I grew older and I realised what was going on, is that I was being locked in a side room to have, do what I wanted, play pool all night, and listen to my music loud, and whilst they was upstairs with the kids. And I've reported these people since then. And hopefully the police will take that up. But I don't know who the girl was. I don't know what they was doing. I've never seen it firsthand, but I did. I seen through the window what I seen. And I know one thing: your man needs to decapitate. Simple as that. Or, as I said, lock them in a room with their mothers 1 hour every day to torture them. That's what I think should be happening, or a life sentence for them at least. They should review it, absolutely review it, and arrest all the bankers for what they've done to this country. I don't know how they can't turn around and arrest them bankers because they brought the national security. We've got less coppers on the street, less army.
Mark,
everything's suffering because they're bankers. Everything.
Mark, did you watch Leaving Neverland? About Michael Jackson.
You know something?
Recent accusations.
I watched it, and I cannot accept any man that pays that £25 million to a kid to shut him up. That there polluted my thoughts straight away.
Well, that was Geordie Chandler.
Turn it over to just have a listen to what they had to say. As far as I'm concerned, there's a few lads on their TV trying to make another crust out of it.
It makes you wonder.
They should have said what they.
But they were very convincing, though. I have to tell you, they convinced me as much as it's possible to be convinced without knowing absolutely 100% the evidence. I wouldn't judge who they were accusing because I just cannot know. But I found them extraordinarily convincing. Those two, no? Well, go on. what's your perception on it? I think your instinct is probably a bit better than mine.
Well, I think that they're just full of crap. They're out of the book.
Really?
That's it.
Really? That is
Yeah, absolutely,
interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
I think they're full of crap.
He did nonetheless pay. You said 25. It was between. We don't know. I think between $5 and $25 million was paid to Geordie Chandler.
Ollie, if you turn around and said I'm a twat, I'm a twat. I'm not going to pay you for 25 million to shut up. If for any other reason, am I? Well, what are you going to do that for? 5 million? It would give you a 10 quid. Anybody shutting a child up? What's that about? And their parents accepting that? What, it's bollocks as far as I'm concerned. He shouldn't be paying out nothing if he's not guilty.
Yeah. On the other hand, also, it could be, there is an argument to say in the case of Michael Jackson that he was heavily affected by his childhood.
Absolutely, I think he was abused, yeah.
He didn't have the strongest mindset, and maybe he had loads of cash, and maybe he just thought, you know what, I'm just going to pay this off because I can't be asked. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so, yeah. Maybe so.
Ollie,
if you turn around and if you turn around and being accused of being a paedophile, you ain't going to sit back and pay someone off, Ollie. You're going to defend that to the hilt. I don't care who you are. And if you turn around and throw money at it, that to me isn't a defence. No chance, no way on this world, because your name is still besmirched, doesn't it?
Robin, go on.
Sorry, I was just saying, a lot of people are commenting saying your screen's frozen, they can't see you moving, and if you're not moving, they're worrying about you, mate.
Oh, look, guys, I'm fine. I've got a few technical problems, basically, with this new software, but as long as you can hear the audio, that's the main thing. And also, hopefully, you can see the media screen as well. I just wanted to mention this other story, just quickly, which is relevant to this, before I pull in Roger Arthur, God bless him. And if you've just joined the show in the last 10 minutes or so, expecting it to have started about 10 minutes ago, which it normally would have done, we've had a slightly unusual day today, have we not? With more votes towards tyranny, it seems to me, people trying to subvert democracy. And so we've been talking about that, covering the live votes. And when Roger comes on in a minute, and I'm about to give him a shout, I will be asking him about that, and he can have a bit of a chew over this with Robin and myself and Mark, God bless him, who's popped in. Now, I just want to mention this story though, because one thing that really concerns me is not just the stories that are going out there. In fact, sometimes the stories that are going out there should not be going out there. I.e., who gives a stuff about Kim bloody Kardashian? Well, apparently a lot of people do, because what's her name, Kylie Jenner or something, is the youngest ever billionaire, which just about tells you the state of our planet one way and another. There are other stories which should get oxygen, that absolutely should, and that story that instigated this last bit of the conversation about David Steele covering up and admitting that he knew exactly what Cyril Smith was, and the fact that he is now under investigation, albeit by somebody who wants to be the leader of the Liberal Democrats, it has to be said, I think, Joe Swanson. Nonetheless, a big story there. And there is part two to this, because also raked up in the last few days at the IICSA, the Independent Inquiry hopefully, into child sexual abuse, is this. Times. Thatcher Minister Peter Morrison was KGB blackmail risk. Child abuse inquiry told, EU blackmail risk is quite possible as well. No, there's different ways of looking at this. As I said earlier, with what the deal is with Tim Fortescue and MPs, depraved MPs in that Heath government being told to support the government that took us into the EEC. So I think their take on the KGB is a bit comical when that is put into context. And we actually have Fortescue talking about that on record. One of Margaret Thatcher's closest political allies was dropped from a ministerial visit to Soviet Russia because his penchant for little boys, for small boys, made him vulnerable to KGB blackmail, a public inquiry was told yesterday. Okay, so they do have a point about the Russians, but they never mention the EU, do they? Sir Peter Morrison was due to visit Moscow in 1987 as a junior energy minister, but there was alarm in Whitehall that allegations of paedophile activity and his heavy drinking made him a security risk. Documents disclosed to the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse revealed concerns that the rumours about Mr. Morrison were likely to have reached the ears of the Russians. Look, my point is that it's coming out more of this stuff about these VIP pedos, about MPs who are depraved, who therefore could be blackmailed and even subvert democracy, and I just wonder how much of that is the reason that we're in the EU. But anyway, I just wanted to say that because it seems to me these stories easily are covered up, and you won't be hearing about that on Today or PM or whatever it is over on the other side. And it's about time we did. I'm giving Roger a bell now. Sorry, Robin, go on.
No, I'm just going to say, I mean, this is another reason why we just cannot afford any more delay. We have all kinds of things backing up that should be getting space on the media, that people should be aware of, that should be getting profile. You know, major problems like the knife explosion in knife crime. This issue should be absolutely centre stage, and it's not, because we are still messing around with Brexit. We had to kill it and get out March 29th and move on with our lives, you know.
Yeah, I completely
Well,
agree.
I'm looking forward to us leaving the EU so we can open the scrumpy houses up again.
Scrumpy houses. Why? Did we have to close them down?
They all closed down during the EU years ago because
they don't like cider.
scrumpy farms, they didn't have the weights and measures and they didn't comply with the European Union because obviously they're roughnecked down the back of the barn in the farm somewhere, and they all closed down because they couldn't afford the equipment to tell you exactly what strength they was.
Oh, Mark, we missed this in 2016. If only you'd have said, we'd have won 98%.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with us leaving the EU, it's going to create so many opportunities for investment. You know, at the end of the day, I think the car manufacturers, I think they should invest in starting their own car companies again. That's what I think they should do. They might letting France and China and that own our power companies. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we paying for that? That income can come back into us. No, what we do is we pay for it and then they sell it off. It's like our lottery. Who owns our lottery now? Canada?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I agree. We need an industrial strategy as a country for how we're going to go forward, and we also need a clear out of the system, and we need to remake the political system that we have, and people it with you know, we're not going to take many of them with us, are we? Really, we need a we need a complete kind of rebuilding of the whole system.
I completely agree with you. I often say to people, when they ask me why I am politically the way I am with regards to the EU and so on, and they might throw back, for example, to me, but come on, I mean, the UK is full of fascism. Let's face it, the way it's run, the way the city gets put first, for example, and stuff like that. What's the difference between that and the EU? And I tell you, the difference is that until you, it's very, very hard to look after the local political scene until you've sorted out the foreign interference. You've got to sort that out. It's like an onion with all these layers of, if you like, political hangers-on. When you get rid of the outer layers and then you come back more local, and then you can sort that out. And at least you've got a hope to be able to sort it out. But until we sort out the EU, we can't sort out anything else. Brexit is the kingpin of all of these issues.
It is, absolutely.
I totally agree, Ollie. I mean, it is. You know, this was always part of the debate in 2016 and ever since, really. That you know, people would say, yeah, but you know, okay, the EU's undemocratic or anti-democratic, as some people say, and I think I probably agree with that point. But you know, it's not exactly perfect in the UK, is it? No, yeah. So let's get our ducks in a row. Let's knock over the Brexit thing. Let's knock over the EU thing, and then we can sort our own house out properly. But we can't hope to, while supremacy of law is not owned by our own courts.
Well, talking about law, I think that needs sorting out as well. The CPR needs changing, because with the
The Crown
CPR was
Prosecution
created with the
Service.
view of that we all get legal aid. Since the dropping of the legal aid, practically all of it, then the CPR still applies.
Oh, hold
now,
on a
there's
second.
an awful
What's
lot of rules
CPR?
and regulations
Mark, what's
to
CPR?
understand.
What's the CPR?
The Crown Prosecution Rules.
The Crown Prosecution
and
Rules?
Civil procedure rules, there's two of them.
Right.
They was created when the legal aid existed. Now, for you to take civil action, you've got to follow you've got to comply with all the regulations and rules. And that's why the solicitors are solicitors. They understand all these rules and they can do it, at a drop of a hat. But when a normal person goes into court and tries to get justice, as Magna Carta says, in justice everyone is entitled to justice, and in justice we shall not fail. So we're in a situation where now, because of the dropping of the legal aid, we are at a deficit, because when we go into court, we don't understand them procedures because we haven't got the full knowledge of it. And we can lose our case on just one drop of anything. Like, I got a case thrown out because my lettering in my statement wasn't 1.2 size text. That's ridiculous. And it's a minefield. The CPR needs to be reviewed. The whole legal system needs to be reviewed. Absolutely needs reviewing. I think a lot of the judges are paedophiles myself anyway.
Yeah.
Well, there we are. Ollie, do we need to get back to the events of the day?
Well, I suppose we do, really.
Brexit all the way.
Yes, I was just trying to get Roger in, Roger Arthur, who is one of our community's letter writers in chief, bless him. And my word, he pins a good letter to the Telegraph and what have you, and it inspires a lot of us, I think, and has educated this guy right here and there as well. But unfortunately, he said, let's sort it out, and just 10 minutes ago, and now he's not answering. So anyway, I don't know what's going on with him. But if you're watching, Roger, then give us a shout when you will, and we'll have a chat and get your take on the day. Let me just take a few more comments, and then I guess we'll start summing up what we've seen, really. Joe Bloggs says, Michael Jackson was massive to the point he could say anything out of line of the elite, and the masses would accept and even act on it. That's a dangerous position to be in for them. So maybe they discredited him to discredit the message. Remember Heal the World? Heal the World? His song. Maybe he was opposing the plan. Who knows? Who knows? People have said similar things about Prince and other people. I don't know the truth of any of it, frankly, but it does make you wonder. Matt Waterhouse, I can't believe the about turn in attitude towards the EU in the last 10 years. I was me too, by the way, Matt. I was enthusiastic about the EU. But how I was brainwashed. Yes, +1 here too. Anyone else had this revelation? Or have you always smelled a rat? No, Matt, I was way too stupid to have smelled a rat. I agree with you. We were so conditioned. And in fairness, I think a lot of these kids who we're calling snowflakes now and what have you, we're actually doing them a big injustice in a way, because it's our society that has conditioned them to be frankly so seemingly stupid. No, Robin?
Yeah, indeed. Have you got is that your man calling?
Yeah, that's Roger. I'm pulling him in, but yeah, it is a real concern. Roger Arthur, can you hear me, sir? Oh no! Hold on. Hold on. Oh, okay. I'll try calling him back because telephony. I hate telephony. It's really got it in for me. Yeah. Right.
In for me. They've all got it in for me.
So we're extending till the 30th of June now, are we?
We are old, aren't we? We are.
That's what the media are saying. It's not true, but that's what the media are saying.
Saying here 412 to 202 to extend Article 50.
Yeah. It's not what it says. That's not what the motion says.
Okay. I think it's going to go to the referendum anyway. I think that's what they're going to do.
I think actually, to be honest, that's less likely as a result of tonight. I think it's less likely.
What do you think, Ollie? What do you think is going to be the outcome of all?
It is less likely tonight, isn't it? They lost that, didn't they? They lost the chance of that tonight. Just a sec. See if
so the margin mark was 334 to 85 votes, so 334 against the second referendum tonight.
Yeah,
so I think
massive.
That's in the short term that pushes that back. I know what you're talking about, Mark. Really is in a sort of 5-year time span, aren't you?
Or 2.
Yeah.
No.
Well, sorry, 2 years from now.
What's your take on it, Ollie? What do you think is going to be the outcome of it?
Well, I have said the reason I started doing this show, Daily Brexit, was because when May got elected as PM, it seemed to me I think I did start doing it a bit earlier than that. But certainly when she got elected as sort of technocratic PM, effectively, it seemed to me pretty clear that they would be extending Article 50 somehow or keeping us in the EU. This Chequers thing came along, and all her negotiation previously was rubbish. Like she said, we don't have to talk trade and stuff like that, which was completely illogical and utterly stupid. And she's not stupid, and so it was presumably malfeasant. It is my deduction. Then she does the Chequers thing, and the Chequers thing is hilariously bad. I mean, it's just insanely bad to the point of just one fly over the cuckoo's nest type out there. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever for any nation state to be bound in that kind of a way by another, and just a big fudge and so on and so forth. But it's all got so surreal since then. But it just seems to me that they're trying to exhaust us, and I kind of wonder if there's a bit of a playoff between the two parties. It's like who's going to they're going to throw their hot potato in the air and see if anybody wants to catch it, sort of thing. It's like she's caught it for now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did ultimately try and let Labour do the dirty work, because Labour was talking quite openly during the election campaign about votes for 16-year-olds. And if the vote was granted 16, 17-year-olds, I think would see a sizable majority then to stay in the EU, because they don't teach civics anymore.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's what I think. I think they're basically just kicking it down the line, kicking it down the road. They've kind of run out of road for now, and they're trying to create some more. But I don't know whether they expected the British people to be as offside.
Resilient.
Resilient. Yes, resilient. Yes, the British people have been resilient, though. I mean, the British people have, it seems to me, seen through Project Fear largely, and that the figures are growing in favour of, for example, a no deal. If we look at Westminster today, just to follow up on this point, because I think this is quite an important. Now the story's gone off their homepage. Oh no, here we go. 75% of Leave voters are against delaying Brexit beyond the 29th of March. I mean, okay, that is Leave voters, but that's a huge percentage. No, I think. I don't know. Robin, I think you're right. I think that they are going to get a rude awakening one way and another. That the British people are very patient, way more patient than they should be, in my opinion. But I think that's wearing dangerously thin.
But they can see through the bullshit, though, Ollie.
Well, I hope so. A lot of them can't, but I think increasingly.
It looks like shit, smells like shit, it's shit.
Yeah.
Just send you a little link there from YouGov poll. So you were talking about percentage of leavers. The YouGov poll says 43 to 38% of Britons want MPs to vote against a Brexit delay. So that was earlier today, and then what did MPs do? They voted the opposite way around to that.
Yeah.
You got that, Ollie?
Yeah.
I'm just pulling it up now.
On screen.
Pulling it up now.
Got that link?
YouGov, by 43% to 38%, Britons want MPs to vote against a Brexit delay, but the public prefer a shorter delay over a longer one. Hold on.
The public want us out. Following one out the 29th.
Well, following votes this week that rejected first Theresa May's deal and second a no-deal exit, MPs tonight. This is tonight, will participate in a further vote on whether or not to ask the EU to extend the Brexit deadline. The results of a Snap YouGov poll conducted today find that 43% to 38% Britons want MPs to vote against a delay. So 43% want them to vote against and 38% for. I don't know. I feel it's very, very hard to be sure because we tend to mix with people that share our values largely. On places like Facebook, we're involved in groups that tend to share our values. For example, I go off to Heart on British politics and post someone there, and then they're all basically very, very rude to me, and I don't go back for another month. and so it's kind of, we do tend to be a bit herded, and so it's hard to be sure. But my instinct does tell me that there has been a shift. I haven't heard too many people say my view has changed and actually we should stay. I think I have heard quite a lot more that have said the opposite, that I voted to stay, but actually I think from what I have seen that actually we should leave.
Absolutely, we should leave. Definitely. And we should leave the 29th.
And the poll there that YouGov, and YouGov don't get things
no, they're quite good,
wrong.
YouGov.
I mean, what very often happens is that people misreport what's happened with polls, which is why I link you directly to YouGov's website as opposed to a report of a YouGov poll.
Thank you.
But I think that shows in the majority that what Parliament, the way in which Parliament have voted tonight, is directly against the will of the people. Still,
when have they ever done anything that's with the will of the people? They've never done anything. They just want to fill their own pockets, and then once they finish their job, earn millions, and bugger off to wherever they would bugger off to.
Okay.
Tony Blair, he's worth 100 million now, isn't he?
Ollie, I'm afraid I'm going to have to duck out at this point.
That's all right. That's all right, sir.
Not because.
Nice speaking to you then.
Not because Mark has offended me, but because he's told me about all this scrumpy, so I've got to go and research it now.
Quite right. Quite right. Robin, thank you very much indeed. Robin Horsley, I do appreciate that very, very much for your commentary, your analysis, and basically for putting me right and holding my hand through these motions and amendments.
The blind.
Goodness knows what. Blimey, I tell you, it was enough to make you want to pass a motion of your own, all of that. Robin Horsley, thank you very much indeed, sir.
Good to catch up with you soon.
God bless you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
He's a well-informed chap.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to run down a few closing stories because this has been quite a long show today, and I'm going to go off and do me whatnots, sort out what I need to sort out as well. But a couple of things that are coming in just on the wrapping up what we've seen today. According to Westminster, Parliament votes for government motion to delay Brexit. A government motion to extend Article 50 has passed by 412 to 202. That's despite Theresa May having repeatedly promised she wouldn't extend, and the UK would leave on the 29th of March 2019. That Brexit means Brexit thing. The motion means that ministers will attempt to put forward Theresa May's deal for a third time before the 20th of March. If it passes, they would seek an extension from the European Union to implement legislation for the deal with the date of 30th of June in mind. If the deal isn't voted through, an extension would then require another purpose to extend will need to be put forward, with the European Council still having to unanimously sign off on any extension. And who knows, maybe we will get someone like Salvini who would put the boot in that at the EU level. That really would be fantastic. Would it not? The latest from Telegraph on this: MPs agree Article 50 extension, but fail in their bid to seize control of Brexit by 2 votes. Brexit latest news, according to Telegraph, MPs fail to seize control of Brexit by 2 votes, but agree Article 50 extension. There's nothing really that new there, huh? So that's where we are. Britain could leave in months, even if MPs vote for a long delay. This is a slightly different take. Britain could leave the European Union, according to the Times, within months, even if the government agrees to extend the Article 50 negotiations by 2 years. Senior government sources have confirmed or spun. I wonder. The Prime Minister is trying to force MPs to choose between her deal and a long extension, which could last up to 2 years. However, senior government sources have confirmed that the exit date could be brought forward if Britain and the European Union agreed on a long extension, but MPs then passed a revised Brexit deal in the coming months with the consent of Brussels. It might be possible to leave early. And I don't know. Do you feel at all? Do you feel better or worse today than you did yesterday, Mark? Or you're just waiting, frankly, like me, till see what happens?
Ollie.
Pardon?
The whole thing turns my stomach.
Yeah, it does me.
The whole thing. I hate. It invokes so much anger in me. You know, I want to go down and strangle them. They're just traitors. How can they act in such a manner? We're just a laughing stock. But I think the EU has got the same problems as the UK. We're just being ruled by idiots. That's looking after their own interests.
I wish they were idiots. I don't think they are. I think that they're psychopaths, personally.
Sorry, yes, you're correct there. What I mean is self-serving pricks.
Okay, well, say it as it is. I'm not going to disagree with you. Right, let's take. I get. Roger Arthur says, I guess Facebook isn't going to work tonight. And Roger, if you're watching this, I'm really sorry about that. Look, Roger, we need to get you on Skype, sir. It would have been Discord, but we no longer have to use Discord, apparently. Fantastic news from the point of view of Daily Brexit tonight. Skype, I was able to connect more than one person on a call without it all going totally tits up, which is fantastic, because if we can use Skype, it makes life a lot easier than has been the case using Discord, huh? So anyway, I will persevere with the tech, as I tend to have to do on this show. Stephen Place. Hey, Stephen. I am truly ashamed of Parliament. I have absolutely no representation in that place. No one there has my back. They have taken away my only opportunity to make a change to my life. My vote. It is vacated and meaningless. I do not recognise this means of governance. Stephen, I agree. I totally agree. I totally agree with you.
Here.
Steve Freedom, he's going to do the washing up before he gets slapped. Lots of laugh. Yeah. Robin's probably gone off to do the washing up. And yeah, that's right. Armin Armoud says, going for a pee, Ollie. And I'll tell you, I've been quite good today. I've been a good couple of hours, and I haven't had to think, I need to get a colostomy bag plumbed in or something. Sorry, excuse me. I don't know the best plumbing yet. Kazzy Mack says the British have waited for the result. Then it's chaos. And Glenn Veld says that Robin is off for emotion. James Miller, I need another stiff drink. My brain is like a whirlpool. Yeah. Anthony Pobiatsin. Anthony, I think I pronounced that very well, sir. No. Parliament puppets love the £300 for turning up to the Dragon's Den. And this is one of the things about Steele, isn't it? About that Lord Steele bloke who admitted to the IICSO that he knew that Cyril Smith had admitted to him that he was a paedophile. And this has just come out in the last few days. And he is still on our payroll. He's still taking money out of our paycheck that guy. But there is at least a disciplinary investigation now into.
How long ago did he admit to it, Ollie?
I'm sorry. How did he admit to it?
How long ago did he admit to it?
Which bit? What, that he knew that Cyril Smith?
Where he admitted to was this Steele fellow. When did he actually come out and say that?
Yesterday.
When did the crime actually happen that he told the people? Or was it just yesterday that it came to light?
No. He's known about it for 40 years. He admitted to the IICSA yesterday, a story buried by the mainstream media because, it's all about Brexit and what have you. Which, yes, of course. But nonetheless, this is still an important story. As given the Fortescue revelations and what have you, is our democracy being usurped by blackmailed, depraved MPs and what have you, is a massive story. It's hard to think of a bigger story on a national level. But they are managing, of course, to bury these things with what's going on Brexit. Brexit is important too. It's just it's being used as a big pantomime as well. And it seems to me to cover up this kind of stuff. And actually, Mark, Tommy Robinson as well. He's at court at a very convenient time, isn't he, for the establishment?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
It makes you wonder. It does make you wonder. But
he fears that he may not get anywhere with it as well. Because he believes that the government aren't going to allow him to win this case, and that they're going to pretty much allow the police to harass him, because they want to cripple him with the finances of it.
Yeah.
But the people will pay for that anyway. You know, the fees and whatnot, the costs.
Well,
people will chip in for it.
People would like to pay for it, apparently, if they have a means to pay some money to him, because he keeps being banned by
TR News.
Organisations that decide they don't like him.
He's up and running still.
Pardon?
He's up and running still. He's got TR News.
Mm-hmm. He's got what?
Donate there.
What is it? TR
News. Tango Romeo .news.
That's his site, tr.news. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. All right. But if you look at the Express today...
all his updates on there. And Ezra also releases updates. And, of course, his YouTube channel's still live.
Yeah. I'm just
There's
looking...
plenty of sharing going on. But, I've been banned 6 times in the last week and a half, I have. Well, been banned for 3 days, but I've had loads of posts... I put up an avatar of TR News, and I got blocked and banned for it for 3 days. And so I pointed out to Facebook that BBC and Channel 4 have got pictures of him, and they said that doesn't go against the community standards. I also contacted Hope Not Hate, and told them about...
I've seen a lot more of that, by the way. Very similar examples to the one you just gave, being banned on Facebook for just putting up stuff, just putting up innocuous stuff, references to Tommy Robinson, and having the post removed. It's like Goebbels censorship, like, cut the head out or scratch it so they can't see. Just take it completely out of their minds. It's just incredible, isn't it? It's incredible.
It is
unbelievable. I'm looking at just all the rags here. And the level of story is just massive distraction. But sometimes what I do, I play this game. I'll put in a keyword. I'll F3 this. So hold on a sec. You can see it on the screen where I am. on Express. So if I put in, let's put in Steele. Now he should be there because Lord Steele today, a former Labour leader, one of the Gang of Four. No. Was he one of the Gang of Four? Maybe not. But he's the guy that with Owen set up the SDP, wasn't he? He was a pretty important bloke. Spitting Image did him perfectly. Anyway, you would think this is a relevant story. It's not even on the front page. Can you see that? You can't maybe see my search query into that. Steele's name is not mentioned on there at all on the front page of the Express. Let's go to, just out of interest, I just want to, I think it's very important. I feel one of my main duties in this job is to explain the propaganda, having worked in with all this crowd, to explain the kind of propaganda that you're seeing. And there again, on the BBC, Steele is not even on the front page. I know because I just F3'd it. I just did a search for it. And on their front page there, he's not even there. That is just that's just pretty typical. I don't know. Go for The Guardian. The Guardian, I suppose they reckon. I'll just refresh the page. I guess those guys reckon that they care. They call themselves. They reckon they're liberal or something. But no, they don't care about the fact that Steele knew that Cyril Smith was a pedo either. They haven't got it on their front page either. And that just sums it up. That just sums it up. They've got all this fluff about basically prevarication and as opposed to saying, hold on a sec, democracy is at stake here. They're just sort of looking at, have we managed to overturn democracy is more their concern. And then it's just the usual kind of... Then we've got talking about Sunday Bloody Sunday. Another distraction, really. Northern Ireland. Quite incredible that we're pointing the finger at our own soldiers, having told them to do something all those years ago. It just seems to me just another way to bring up issues that are not that important relative to what we should be talking about now. Securing our democracy. I mean, what is this? Furore over European Parliament President's Mussolini comments. I mean, it's just all a joke, really. It's not that important compared to the sort of stuff that is going on. And then, of course, they got all the showbiz stuff kicks in, and I've barely scrolled down the page. Holy fudge! Fancy your transformation. I don't know. Do you know how to wipe your own arse, Great Britain? I mean, it really is so patronising.
I think that's Britain, though, isn't it, Ollie?
I'm sorry?
I think that's for Middle Britain, the sheep. That kind of rubbish.
Well, I think that the entire shag rag brigade that you get in your news agents, all of it, in my opinion, is the same. You do get some excellent columnists. You do get some good journalism, and you do get one or two good magazines. But they're few and far between. And every single shag rag, if you like, all the main and the broadsheets, the big ones, the big names, the big beast news media, not a single one of them comes out and supports sovereignty. For example, the Express, that's it loves chucking out all this clickbait like, oh, that Varadkar bloke is a bit of an idiot and this and that and that. They love, if you like, right-wing clickbait. But when it comes to their editorial, for example, with Theresa May's vote yesterday, their editorial was everybody should be voting for it and getting behind it. In other words, bugger your sovereignty, bugger your freedom, bugger your independence, bugger 39 billion. It's just, there is not a single... Now that the Express has been bought by Mirror Group, there is not, which happened in the middle of the last couple of years, by the way, and how suspicious was that timing? It was the one rag that was on our side, on the side of sovereignty.
Yeah.
Now we have none. None.
How would you fix it? That's
the great British press. I would educate people. I would do actually what Donald Trump's been doing and saying, you are fake. And
I think they should bring a crime. I do. I think they should have a crime of if you are a newspaper and you print something, then I think that should be a criminal offence if it's incorrect, and have a minimum 5-year sentence for it, or a maximum 5-year sentence for it.
Yeah, and people can make mistakes.
I think they should have some accountability.
Well, they should have some accountability, but I think it's easier to deal with than that. I think that news should be treated a little bit like cigarettes. I think that it should be given a health warning, because after all, it's something that information is something that you consume in the same way that you would consume a hamburger, yeah? And it can be equally carcinogenic. It can be very, very dangerous, highly, highly inflammatory, divisive, and all the rest of it. And I think that if we were to educate people that actually there is no such thing as a journalist without some kind of an agenda, because they have to write for the company accountant, and the company accountant is directed by X, Y, and that basically news is very rarely true news, and it is generally views, even if it just, you can't see it, even the running order, the priority of news stories makes a difference. All of these different ways can and you talk about Tommy and John Sweeney, that interview. I watched
a brilliant documentary.
Panodrama. I watched that, Mark, and John Sweeney was manipulating the interviewee. Tommy Robinson said it. It was correct what he said. That Sweeney bloke, yeah, he said some nasty things about, I don't know, his language was pretty fruity in many other...
He called us Irish scumbags.
Well, yes, yes, but he didn't know that he was being filmed, in fairness. What was really wrong...
Come on.
His
I don't accept that one, Ollie.
His language was fruity.
You go by your word.
Let me finish this, and then you riposte to me, please. His language was fruity, but to me, the thing where he should have been sacked over was that he was manipulating the witness, if you like. He was telling the subject what they needed to say in the interview, and that's dead wrong in news. But what's your riposte?
He was trying to manipulate it to a Me Too situation so then Tommy, it was look on Tommy, there was a sexual thing going on, and maybe he might have abused someone or hurt someone or done something against somebody. That's what their narrative was, and he was trying to make it the story up, and that there is sackable. Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. Yes, I do understand that he's in the pub, he doesn't know what he's saying, he does know what he's saying, but he doesn't realise he's being recorded. But the fact is, it has been revealed to how his thoughts are, and his thoughts are out of order. I turned around and contacted Hope Not Hate about the video. I sent an email to Hope Not Hate saying that I was disgusted about how a reporter said that on video, said that this Irish were scumbags. And they says, well, let's have a look at it. We're very sorry that you felt that way. And if you have a look, show us the video, then we'll look into it and investigate it. So I sent them the video of Panodrama. And of course, that shut them up and they haven't responded to me since. Which, so it's a bit biased as well, isn't it? It's an awful lot going on, and it's all about the money, isn't it?
I think that when it comes to news, you have to be... one of the most dangerous things is when views masquerade as news. And that tends to be the case. And I think this is what Trump has really been highlighting. And I think it's a very, very important thing. I think that, yes, but this is my answer to this. It's not so much to regulate, it's more to educate. And so it's not so much directing the problem and saying you're the problem with the media. They are. But it's us readers or viewers. We need to understand, you should, whatever is said on this show by me, you should not take it at face value. It's an opinion from a bloke with an agenda. In the case of my agenda, it's I want Brexit. But it's you should always consider it from the angle of where they're coming from and what have you. Now, there's one exception to this kind of rule of where regulation doesn't matter and that they can do what they like as long as it's properly labelled and people understand where journalism is coming from, and when it is not journalism, which is most of the time, and that exception is with the BBC, because the BBC is the nation's broadcaster, and it's absolutely crucial that the BBC, if it is going to have a news service, and if that would be the most important service that it has, because it really forms opinion more than the documentary side of the BBC or whatever, for example, then they have to be absolutely 100% whiter than white as such. And because it's the nation's broadcaster. If they're going to pretend to be on some sort of a moral pedestal, then they've really, really got to work for it. But the truth is that BBC News has failed to do that. And I need to murmur two words: Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile. Or I could just say, well, Brexit, the Brexit campaign. Or I could say something like, well, I don't know, Jill Dando. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons, but there are reasons that we do know 100% that the BBC's not been serving the interests of the British people. They have been covering up some heinous stuff. And I think that they've lost their right to broadcast under those circumstances. I don't think anybody else has, because nobody else pretends to be auntie. But that's my opinion on
I think the judge in Tommy's case said it quite well about reporting when Ezra was tweeting about the case.
Ezra Levant.
He was permitted to be within. Yeah, he was tweeting about the case as it was going ahead, and the judge didn't have a problem about it. But then he was making a bit of humour out of it and making comments about police officers and such. And the judge made a point of pulling him up in the court and saying, "Listen, you're reporting, you're doing your tweeting, you're doing it as a stenographer, less of your opinions." Which I think that is although it should be applied to every single one of the media outlets, because if you start sharing your opinion, then it's your opinion. If you just report the news of exactly what it is, as they say, like a stenographer, then you get more accuracy, I'd say.
It's always an opinion from somewhere. When a news story is on the news, it is an opinion effectively. Because one of the opinions, the opinion of the editor or whoever's in charge of that newsroom, and whoever's in charge of that newsroom probably is never in that newsroom, but their job's worth, generally speaking, certainly in the case of the BBC, who are running that newsroom, are setting out the agenda, the news, and you just ignore stories. Like, they won't mention the Steele story. They were on most of the BBC newscasts tonight, if any of them. They won't mention it. Because it's not their kind of, actually they might do today. They wouldn't have done yesterday, and they didn't. But they might do today because now there is an investigation underway. I don't know, but they can play with it, and they do play with it. Kazi Mac, the internet was given to distract us, but now it's working against them. Hence, Macron asking all 27 states to regulate the internet. Google the article is there. So question, don't use Google, people. Use DuckDuckGo. Google is evil. So question, are they going to take it away from us? Leaving just shopping and TV on the internet. Well, Kazi, they are already doing things, aren't they? Mark, do you know anything about Articles 11 and 13? Have you heard about those?
Article 11, in what respect?
EU legislation where basically they
I'm not familiar with it, no. If you tell me what it's about, I might be, but I might not know the article name.
Well, one of these pieces of legislation is where you cannot share any content without having the permission from the copyright holder. So, for example, I've got on the screen there, you can see there's a Guardian, the front page of the Guardian, because I've been talking about the news people and all that, and I wouldn't be allowed to do that without getting the permission of the Guardian or the BBC, whoever it is that I want to show their content on. And so you can't crit, can you? You can't crit, and this is a massive problem. Quite aside from people won't even be. They actually said, the EU, we don't want people to stop sharing cake pictures and things like that. Yeah, we don't want people to stop sharing memes. But the fact is that this kind of legislation makes it possible that they can force people to stop sharing by law, and they just passed that this year. Again, where's the coverage? Did you? I mean, you probably may have heard about that. A lot of you folks on Facebook or what have you, but was it on the BBC? No, of course not. They were probably talking about how terribly right wing we all are that want Brexit or something like that.
Well, we're stupid. Don't forget, you missed that one.
We are. We do need to be led. Matt Waterhouse, are you okay? That's within there. Smoke and mirrors to blind people, says Gary Tremaine, and James Miller says I posted Tommy Panadrama on Facebook and it's not been removed. I pasted it as well, and it was, and I pasted it again, and I don't know whether it was or not because I can't remember. But the first one, the first time it was, and I know a couple of other people it was as well.
I think you'll find that with the people, depending on what people's watches in on your channel or your site or your page, and whether you're a prolific poster or whatnot. Because I've had it removed about 6 times. I've had tons of posts removed. In fact, I'll tell you what I did do, Ollie. I searched for Tommy Robinson on Google, and it come up with 68 million articles. And I thought, wow, that's an awful lot of articles about him. So I screenshotted it. And just after I screenshotted it, it flashed up in the bottom left-hand corner that Tommy Robinson was live. And then it clicked straight off again. So he must have just come on live for a second and then went straight off again. So then I've done another search, and I searched for Tommy Robinson again, and it come up with 83 million people. And I thought, hey, how come that jumped so much? So I screenshotted that as well. And I posted it up to show the comparisons between prior to the going live and after the going live. And that was deemed as going against the standards, and I was blocked for that also. Crazy.
Aye, it is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I think, people, that it is pretty much that time of day. Blimey.
Ollie, just before I go.
Go on, Mark.
Thank you for your show.
Yep.
It's very enjoyable. Keep it up. You got a lot of supporters.
Oh, God bless you, man. Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
And I'll bid you good night, mate. You take care.
Look, I'm really sorry that I cocked up with your phone number when you first came on, man. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Don't repeat it.
No, I've learned a lesson now. Thank you very much.
Send me a text line anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been checking out Daily Brexit. Go on, Mark.
I said, all right, and take care then. I'm off now. Speak to you soon.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
This has been Daily Brexit. I'm Olly Connelly, and I'll see you on Monday, 7 o'clock. Oh, and by the way, 29th of March, I'm going to be there in the middle of London. I booked my flights last night, so I hope to see you there. Crying out loud, folks. I'll tell you what, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm wondering if I'm going to be pitching a tent in Parliament Square. Yeah, that's it, folks. God bless you. Okay, see you tomorrow. See you Monday. Yeah.